Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call this regularly scheduled August 26th Commission meeting to order. I do want to notice that Commissioner Mazon is running just a few minutes late, and I would ask, before we approve this agenda, can I get an agreement that if he walks in the door, we leave the agenda the way it is? If he's still not here, can we flip-flop items 4 and 5? Because he specifically wants to be here for the number 4, and I think we get through number 5 pretty quick. So, but hopefully he'll walk through the door here. And I do not see Pastor Ian Campbell. So if Pastor Campbell doesn't show up, I'm going to ask Elder Trip Northfleet if he would give tonight's invocation. But we'll give Pastor Ian just another minute or so. So with all of that preamble, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as it was published? I have a motion from Commissioner Clark, second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Mazon absent. If you would please rise for the invocation, and Mr. Northfleet, would you come give that for us? And after the invocation, if you would please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will follow.
Dear Lord, just want to thank you for tonight, and just thank you for your glorious self, Lord, and just want to pray for our country, pray for our leadership, pray for these men up here tonight, Lord, and we also want to pray for the peace of Israel, Lord, and just want to thank you and give us all in here tonight wisdom, Lord, and all these things we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Commissioner Clark.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Northfleet. That's going to take us, we have no presentations tonight, so that's going to take us right to public announcements. Any member of the public here to speak to the commission about something that's not on the agenda, you have public announcements, 2 minutes to do so. Just come on, line up. If you have something that takes a little bit longer, we have another 5-minute public announcement at the end of the night. Come on down, sir. Introduce yourself to us.
Joe Hoffman,
right.
City of Newberry resident. Commissioners, Mayor,
Good to see you,
Council,
sir.
how are you, Mr. New?
Good.
Just, I sent everyone an email regarding Gaston Tree Service. I hope everybody got it and read it. Been having an issue over there. They want to put in what's called a transfer station, basically right when you come into town. I have probably 20 neighbors around that area that have heard the grinder running when they do run it. I mean, they ran it last in October. I let the city manager know about it. Since then, I think code enforcement's been out there at least 3 or 4 times. The previous code enforcement officer, and now Greta Moreau, has been out there. She actually witnessed, if I'm not certain, that one of them was dumping when she went out there, and then a different company was out there dumping at the same time. So they're actually allowing someone else to dump out there, which is against your ordinance. Your ag allows them to grind and do the trees that are on the property, but you're not allowed to import anything to that property and then do the same thing. That would become an industrial use. So they had a temporary permit from DEP. I hired an attorney. He was a past attorney. He was general counsel for DEP a few years ago. He is now for a private practice. They did get DEP to have a stay, but DEP wants the city of Newberry to make a comment and say, hey, you know, we are or we're not for this. And so they're basically waiting for you guys to tell them how you feel about it. I don't need to tell you how I feel about it. I don't think it's a good idea. I certainly don't think it's a good idea at the beginning of the city. It's, you know, eventually it will become an eyesore, to say the least. So I would hope that you guys stand up to them, because, I mean, I became a commissioner in 2002. I lived in Miami for 35 years, and one of the things that I said when I got here was, guys, it's coming. You need to prepare for it. Make sure you have the ordinances and your LDRs in place to be able to stop things like this, so that you can control your own growth. And you're going to get that pushback. You're going to start getting that more. Developers and people that are trying to make a buck are going to take Newberry and say, hey, we're going to do whatever it is we want. unless you push back and say, no, you can't. Here's our LDRs. We have everything in place that we need.
I hate to cut you off, but it's 30 seconds over. I welcome you to come back.
I apologize.
Or if your
No, we're
wife
good.
comes up, she can keep
We're
on
good.
going.
We're good.
But
you guys get the gist of what I'm trying
we
to say.
do, and our manager's all over it. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir. Come on down, ma'am.
I'm Peggy Loy. I have a question. You know, they've done a lot of tree trimming here lately. They just dropped the debris in my yard. I can't mow that section of the yard, and it isn't cut up small enough that Waste Pro will take it. Just maybe an idea when we might be getting that stuff gone.
Give us a little bit, and the manager, unless he just got back from vacation, so if he already knows the answer to that, I know we've had a lot of those kinds of things, so we try to do a lot of back and forth, but if it's a quick answer, go ahead, Mr.
The
Reed.
methodology that we've used for tree trimming this year was that a contractor cuts and we'll be right behind them with a pickup truck, our claw truck to remove the debris, because we get a lot of productivity that way. We get a lot more mileage out of our tree trimming dollar. But as soon as it got started, we had a storm and our truck broke down. So it's been laying too long, but I understand our truck is on the mend and we'll be back on the road as soon as we can get it. That is the reason behind how we let it get to the shape that it's in today, and we'll do our best. I would say if we can't get a truck on the road this week working on it, that we'll be searching for an alternative means of getting it picked up, even if we have to hire it out.
Thank you, sir. Other public comment?
I'm Brandy Oldman. Good morning, Commission, Marlo. I want to thank y'all for putting up a directional signal in front of my house. The road kind of dead ends into my house. I hate to look a gift horse in the mouth, but the stop sign was in order to get people to slow down and stop. Right now, they're still speeding through. They know which direction to go. They're still speeding through that neighborhood, and I worry about the kids in the neighborhood. But I do want to thank y'all for that. That was quick and prompt, and Jamie was awesome with all that. And that's all I want to say about that, really.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other public comment? Come on down, sir.
Sorry,
Wrong sheet of paper.
wrong sheet of paper indeed. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm Marlon Day, Library Manager for the Alachua County Library District at the Newberry Branch Library. Thank you for your time. I was here at the beginning of the summer. I wanted to report to you the final numbers for the 2024 summer reading program. Our Newberry patrons had the following numbers. There were 146 adults, 215 children, and 29 teens enrolled. These patrons submitted 215 book reviews and logged an astounding 123,893 minutes. That's over 2,000 hours of reading. Just the children participants alone, they've logged an average of 7 hours of reading per person this summer. So it's a very successful program, and I want to thank you very much for spreading the word about that and participating. September is National Library Card Sign-Up Month, so if you know anyone that doesn't have a library card, encourage them to get one. Usually in September, at the end of the month, everybody who gets a new library card, we randomly select one of those people to give a prize to. And the last week of September is Banned Books Week. This is the week that we focus attention on efforts to remove or restrict access to books and draw awareness to the harms of censorship. We also have Firehouse Fire Truck Storytime coming up in September. I want to thank the city for partnering with that, and thank Fire Chief Vogel for allowing that to happen. More information about what's that?
Looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're hoping for good weather. More information about these items and all the things that's happening at the library can be found at aclib.us. And if you have any questions, thank you for your time.
Any questions? As always, Mr. Marlin, great job over there. Very interactive. Other public comment? Come on down, sir. If Commissioner Mazon doesn't get here after all this public comment, it's just going to be his fault.
I've been meaning to come up here the last month, and I hadn't made it up here, but about a month ago, we had a fire at our town center out there, and think I was out of town. It was on Sunday night about 6 o'clock. And the fire department got there, and they got it put out pretty good. And then they walked it. Then some of my guys came in, and then I think the next morning, Scott, the inspector, was there early that morning. And like I said, I was out of town, and at 9:30 that morning, we got an email. And Nikki from the building department, with Scott's direction, had already sent us a permit, an open permit for reconstruction on that building. So I just wanted to say that your staff was doing, and I think Mike knew. He gave me a call that Sunday night too, to let me know what was going on and the whole deal. But I was just, I complained a lot, but I was going to tell you, when they did a great job, it kind of makes you feel pretty darn good when they
appreciate that,
got that. And like you said, the building department did a great job, fire department did a good job, and the whole deal. And like I said, the building got struck by lightning, so it was pretty good, to see. Like you said, they kind of come around and they had it going on right away, man. So we sure appreciate that. So like I said, y'all get to hear all the bad stuff. I want to tell you some of the good stuff first.
Well, we appreciate that, and we were sorry to see it, but glad that Stonehouse was able to open right up real quick.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll mention that was definitely a case where the Quint was needed.
Yep.
If we'd had a regular pumper truck, it would have been a challenge, but a Quint gave us the aerial capabilities to get that under control pretty quickly. So great job, Commission, for funding that.
It's good when we can be proactive about things instead of reactive. All right. Other public comments? Seeing none, we will move to consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published. I got a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Mazon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. We're going to stay on our scheduled agenda items. Since Commissioner Mazon is here, it's going to move us to our first public hearing and ordinance. I'm going to invite Dallas up here. Before we read this resolution in, I think we may want to have a conversation about this. So, Dallas, give us a little bit of a presentation, and then we'll see what the commission wants to do moving forward with it.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. We're here tonight to discuss your final fire assessment. As the mayor mentioned, I want to have a brief conversation before we move forward, provide the commission some options. Our recommended action tonight is going to be for you to open the public hearing, receive public comment, and then table this conversation until September 9th. That's our first budget hearing. There's been a couple of items that have been brought up in the last few weeks that we want to make sure we fully understand and have all the answers available to the commission and the public before you guys vote on your final fire assessment. Just as an overview, the fire assessment is a fee charged against real property that pays for fire protection services. The funds raised by the fire assessment can only fund the fire protection portion of your fire department. Case law stipulates how this fire assessment works. It has to provide a benefit to property, has to be fair and reasonably apportioned, and it cannot pay for anything above the first responder level of EMS. The City Commission has decided to exempt government properties, provide a hardship exemption, and exempt tax-exempt properties from the fire assessment. As a reminder, your fire department is funded primarily through property taxes, but the next largest funding source is your fire assessment at 36% of the fire department's budget coming through the fire assessment. So in this current year, we updated our fire assessment methodology, we updated our rates based off of the adopted methodology, which resulted in some changes across all the classes, particularly industrial warehouse, which is where a lot of the questions are coming from. But we had a large increase in industrial warehouse. Their call volume went from 1% to about 13%. Some slight increases in commercial, a slight decrease in residential, and then a decrease in institutional. So the proposed rates based off that study were no change for your residential uses, increase for commercial of 7 cents a square foot, an increase in industrial warehouse of 22 cents per square foot, and a decrease in institutional by 17 cents a square foot. Again, all of these rates are derived from call data. Again, I did not put this question mark here, and I refute this question mark. Thank you. Again, based on some questions we have, we're not able to answer some of these items, so our recommended motion, staff's recommended motion, is that the commission open the public hearing as it was properly noticed to our residents, receive public comment, and then move to table this until September 9th.
Okay, so my only comment, I agree with everything Dallas just said, that some of the questions that we've had, so we looked at this and we preliminarily moved forward with it, but at this point now I've got some questions on the methodology, and my concern is that to answer those questions may take us past the September 15th border, right, our deadline. So I don't want to put the city in, we've got a fire assessment methodology and study that we've had in effect for 9 years that has generated very, very little complaint. Everybody's comfortable with it. We have a new methodology that has a spike in it, and I'd like to go back and really press on some of those key points and have an understanding. So I think that where we need to get to tonight is clear direction so that we don't run up against a brick wall and say, well, our deadline is September 15th, so it's either this study or no fire assessment, because neither one of those is a good opportunity. And that may mean that we need to go back and make a motion to reconsider the fire assessment study, or it may just mean that we can, staff will come forth with another viable option to move forward before our first meeting in September. I want both of those options on the table right now for you guys to consider what's best to move forward. So I recognize that we're up against a deadline, and some of these things are just too complex that we may not be able to get an answer from the experts who generated the study in the timeline that we have. So that's kind of my recommendation, is not just that we table it, but if we don't have some clarity, and it looks like we're not going to get clarity, that staff think about what do we need to do to make sure that we can operate this next fiscal year under the existing fire assessment study that we have. Is that articulately stated, Dallas, or is there something in it that is still?
I believe that was perfectly stated.
Okay, questions from the commission? Commissioner Martin.
Yeah, I think some of the questions that it has generated, and I got a chance to talk with the mayor earlier and the city manager, is sort of some of this in-between stuff, and I feel like we're like scoring in gymnastics where we have a high and a low and one of them needs to get thrown out or something like that. So I would appreciate a little bit of extra time to figure out some other options here to make it a little bit more feasible, not only to defend, but also to actually implement that makes sense.
Yeah, best practices, we should redo these studies every 10 years. Nobody's got a perfect answer, but we're 9 years in on our existing, so we're kind of ahead of the game, which I like that Newberry is always ahead of the game. But even if we can't get these questions answered in this budget year, that gives us this year to go back, really get comfortable, and then we can come back if that's the case, if that's the fallback stance that we have to take. Commissioner Coleman, it looked like you were reaching. No? Put words in your mouth. You're thinking. Anybody, any other questions? Commissioner Clark, you weren't here at the
Right.
reading
So,
conditions first.
I wasn't brought up to speed. I did hear this, but the way it was presented now is the first time I've heard some of the rhetoric that we got going on with these big increases and all this stuff. But my question to Dallas, so our assessment now covers us how much in the fire department? Are we 100% funded in the budget?
I think the question's talking about last year's budget, not the budget.
We're coming into a new year, though. This assessment will roll in. We're going to keep this one. If we keep this one, are we fully funded?
All right, are you asking if we keep
The existing,
Right, not the one that's newly adopted?
no, the existing one right now, where are we at?
Mr. Mayor, if you kept the existing rates, it would generate less revenue, but it's not substantially less. So we could absorb the old rates in this year's budget.
All right, my question, what is that? I mean, where are we underfunded if we kept that rate, Dallas, is what I'm asking.
I
Are we
have
100,000, or do we even know yet?
It's several $1,000s. It's nothing major.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't done the math, but I believe it would probably be less than $10,000.
The budget that Dallas has been working on assumes the newly adopted rates. That's why it would be a little bit off. But
Right.
so we can absorb under our existing. I know that we're
Okay,
close
so
there.
I didn't get none of this back and forth because I missed the budget.
Yeah,
so-
we can't
so,
absorb not
anyway.
having a fire assessment at all.
I understand that, but keeping what we have currently,
Right.
we can roll.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we may have to make a few minor adjustments, but it wouldn't be, majorly detrimental to the
Okay.
budget.
Okay, Commissioner Cole.
all in all, it's like the way this country's going right now. I mean, you're gonna raise all this up on all these, companies here in Newberry, and, it just all, they're not in business to work it and run a business at a loss. So then it's putting it on, the burden on all these taxpayers in Newberry and the customers. Well, the taxpayers are gonna have to go with that high of a rate. Yeah, I'm definitely not for that.
Any other thoughts? I just want to be clear because the timing is short here. So I want to make sure that we have ample time for staff to address some of these concerns. If they're quick fixes and the expert can get back to us, all well and good. If we need more time, then I think we may have to make a motion to reconsider the newly adopted and then have another agenda item where we adopt the study that we've been currently working with for 9 years. All that's going to happen in a relatively short space of time.
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say, if we reconsider this on the 9th and we have to have it finalized by the 15th, the 9th is a Monday, we would have a second, we could adopt on second reading, and that'd just be the end of it. I think we're allowed to impose lower rates than are proposed in the first reading, but not higher. So there's an opportunity that could happen when we do the second reading on September the 9th, and it's done. If the best solution is something different than that, then we still have the 10th, 11th, and 12th to have a second hearing. It'd be a one-item agenda, and we could do that. So there is time for that. I think the point of that we need to look at there's potentially some liability to the city to stick with its old rates, having new rates in hand. I think that not fully understanding the new rates and wanting to explore them deeper, which is what you suggested, it is credible, and I think we're fine with that. But I think that we just have to be careful about our rationale for doing things. I agree with the dissenters that this is such a dramatic increase for that one class. While easily defensible as, well, this is how we got here, it's still a dramatic increase and it results from one property. So I think that, the Dallas's recommendation that we defer to the 9th, so hopefully sometime the week before that, we're going to have the answer and be able to communicate to the commission so that when they roll in here on the 9th, they'll be knowing what staff's recommendation is, and we'll be able to vote and plan that second reading if we need it, or vote and put it behind us.
And I would say that if there's non-compliant businesses in that category that are the cause of a spike, that staff also bring forth some suggestions for how we can make sure we get a non-compliant business into compliance without unduly spiking the rest of the businesses in that same category. Dallas, you have it.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. 2 points. First, to your non-compliance. I believe that business is going through the code enforcement process currently.
I believe it is
Scheduled for a special magistrate hearing. Second point, to the manager's point, this is your second hearing. So if you defer this hearing to the 9th, that is your second hearing. You don't need to have another second.
And in the second hearing, you can rescind the adoption of that and adopt the methodology that's been in existence for 9 years.
I will defer
or
to the city
assessments.
attorney, but I
Okay,
believe
but
so.
we'll have a clear answer on that within 9 days.
Yes.
All right. And if it will take appropriate action to be able to do whatever we need to do so we don't create this gap. Commissioner Martin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I mean, this kind of back and forth is really why I'm not in favor of really moving the needle. I think maybe the study was trying to get us to the right spot, but I don't think it's accounting for the unique situation that we have here. And I don't like that one business is throwing it for everybody else. That just doesn't make any sense at all. So whatever we got to do to fix that, and again, make it fair is where I want to go. If I need to make a motion to reconsider now, or we need to wait until.
I think we can wait,
until the
but let's go ahead. Let's hear from the public because we got a lot of folks that came out to talk about this agenda item tonight. Hang on one second, ma'am. So let's hear from the public, and then I think the motion would simply be a motion to table until we come back. with all of that direction of all the work that has to go on behind the scenes and the different avenues and paths that we may need to come forward. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Public comment. Come on down, man.
And specifically table it to September 9th.
Table at time certain, September 9th.
Randy Oldman, I wanted to ask about that property tax, that $200. Is that a regressive tax? Say your $1 million house, I pay the same $200 and you pay the same $200 for my $100,000 house? It's $200 across the board, no matter what your house value is?
For residential, it's a flat rate.
Flat rate?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
But remember that most of the funding comes from the property tax, which is related to the.
And there's no way to like make that not like that? Because I think it's undue burden on the people whose houses are worthless. Like, I remember when I moved here, we paid $0 in fire assessment. Like, I don't mind paying for fire assessment, we need that. But we have a lot of expensive homes in Newberry, and I feel like, well, my home's like $100,000 maxed out. 200 is, my normal property tax bill is $100, so that 200 makes it 300, and that's, I can pay it, but it still is a burden, and it might disproportionately affect people on different sides of towns who don't have the same income. And that's just what I want to say. And yeah, Southern
Thank you, ma'am.
Fuel Wood is because of all that.
Mr. Mayor,
All right.
we can't pick and choose, because any citizen out there that's having a heart attack in their house, this doesn't just pertain to the fire.
Right.
So we can't pick and choose your financial beings on when it comes to
Right.
to that. So that will never work.
And we offer a hardship for anyone who's
Yeah.
in that position.
Mr. Mayor, to the residents concerned, there are two thought processes that exist out there. There is one that agrees with the resident that it should be proportionate to the value of your home. While you cannot directly tie this to a value of a home, the city of Gainesville, for example, does it by square footage. The other thought process is that if a $200,000 house catches on fire or $1 million house catches on fire, we're sending the same 4 firefighters, the same trucks, the same response to either situation. So there's a thought process of that. If we're sending the same response, the charge should be the same. And that's the.
I mean, we've debated taxes, and I don't think that I've ever heard a way to tax people that I ever think is 100% fair. And so we always try to mitigate. Because if we do it all through property taxes, then the people that in really expensive houses that have fire alarms and don't have a fire, they pay for all of it. And the people that are in older homes that have bad wiring, they use the fire department, they don't pay for any of it. So we try to make sure everybody pays a little bit and everybody's got some skin in the game, while recognizing that there is no system that can just be perfectly fair across the board. So we try to make sure everybody's got some skin in the game, by always thinking about our residents' pocketbooks as much as we can while covering the cost. Other public comment about tabling this item, talking about the methodology, anything of that? Y'all came out in the rain, so you might as well, you don't want to come back again. Come on down, sir.
Hi, Commissioner. Todd Russo. I'm with Ultimate Boat and RV Storage. Couple things I want to bring up is we do pay a fire assessment fee. I think right now it's right around $4,500 a year. With the proposed increase, it's 700% more. It's going to be upwards of $29,000. So we are lumped into industrial warehousing, and I just think maybe there needs to be some different categories in there. Essentially, we are a parking lot with shade. We do have metal buildings. They're open-aired. We have 2 buildings, I think, consist of 19,000 square feet, but most of the 117,000 square feet is open, it's just canopy covered. And we're in the same group, which raises our rate tremendously.
Yeah.
Inflation right now is 2.9%. I mean, that's a lot less than 700%. That might be doable, but I appreciate you guys tabling this and thinking of us.
And I appreciate that, sir. But that, I think, is what I heard Tim say, and what you guys feel is that, the direction we gave to staff was let's make sure everybody's paying a fair percentage. And I think that we just don't have enough categories, because when I look at our fire department calls, I mean, they're like 95% health related, right?
Yeah.
First and foremost. The ones that are calls are either lightning hit a building, which nothing you can do about an act of God, or they're farmers that caught their field on fire, and we do have other calls, but those are kind of our big ones, except for, certain categories that we don't right now have a category to fit into, right? So that's what I think and I just want to make sure that category, that one category and one non-compliant business is not the reason to spike everyone else. And that's my problem with the methodology, because we didn't have these problems 5 years ago, right? And so the problems are recent, right, that has got exacerbated. And if we're doing a methodology based on recent data, I think that data is skewed towards something else, right? So I appreciate the comments there. Anybody else want to come down? No? Okay, I have a motion to table from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That moves us on to Alachua, item 5, Alachua County Solid Waste MSBU. I'm sorry, time certain. Will you amend your motion, time certain, September 9th?
It was implied.
Okay, and that was implied in your second.
Just want to be sure, because
Thank
that's
you.
what Mr. Walker.
Appreciate it. Mr. Walker, will you read into the record on second reading ordinance 2024-18?
Yes, sir. There's an ordinance amending ordinance number 2023-25, providing consent for the entire corporate limits of the city of Newberry to be included in a non-ad valorem assessment for municipal service benefit unit created by Alachua County for the provision of solid waste management costs, providing conditions for the consent, providing that the consent is for 1 year, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is passed ordinance number 2024-18 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Downs, you got any update between the first and second reading?
Mr. Mayor, no, I have no update, but just a brief blurb for the benefit of the public. The solid waste assessment is charged by the county. It funds several of the services provided by the county for solid waste management, including the rural collection centers, household hazardous waste collection, in the Office of Waste Alternatives. The annual fee this year for single-family residential is $25.27. That is, represents no increase from last year. Again, that's an annual fee of $25 that'll be assessed on the tax bill.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner, have any questions? No, I don't have a motion. I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Farnsworth. Second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor?
That was just an annual.
Yeah, you have to come up to the podium if you have a question.
That was just an annual, I'm Brandy, okay? That was just an annual fee, right? Our monthly isn't going up on trash.
Correct.
Just-
This is our, is it amortized over the course of a month, or is it a one-time?
It's one time.
Yeah, I've noticed it on the trim notice. I just wanted to make sure.
Well, and Mr. Mayor, that our solid waste fees are separately approved by the commission, and I believe our solid waste fees are increasing this year per our contract with Waste Pro. But just
Due to
for
things
full
that have happened
disclosure.
at the county level.
Correct.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Farnsworth, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any other public comment on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, roll call. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
No.
Commissioner Maison?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-1 with Commissioner Martin in dissent. Let's move us to item 6, which is State Road 26 FDOT Twin Pairs Project. Mr. New, you're going to take us through, fresh off vacation, and you're leading a presentation?
Yes, sir.
What kind of
And-
assistant city managers do you have here? I'll tell you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to ask for the commission's graces in allowing me to stay seated for this presentation. And would tell you that with the number of issues that are going on today, I had to do some prioritization. And this issue is just an introduction, so there's no fancy slide deck for this. I'm going to walk you through some of the things that are part of the consideration so that you have a better understanding of what the landscaping, hardscaping discussion will look like. And we'll solicit feedback, and I give the commission assurances that they will see the proposed final landscaping program before it is approved by FDOT for construction. So as a rule, FDOT, when they improve a roadway, they provide for turf, and they provide occasionally for trees. Through the corridor in Newberry, trees wouldn't even be on the pallet. But they presume that they're responsible for all of the maintenance. So it is concrete and turf is what we would expect. FDOT offers cities that want a landscaped corridor, they'll upgrade, but in exchange for that upgrade, the city would sign an agreement that says we'll maintain the landscaping that you put in through regular landscaping maintenance. We do something similar with streetlights. The streetlights that are on our highways through town, we pay for and we maintain them for FDOT. If one goes out, Jamie gets an email that says the streetlight's out and it needs to be fixed within 48 hours, and they pay us for that maintenance. If I said opposite, I was mistaken. They pay us to do that, but they provide them through an interlocal agreement with the city. We currently don't have an agreement with them to maintain landscaping, but the corridor going through town is 100% with the Twin Pairs project, is 100% within the CRA and is eligible to be CRA funded and maintained. Staff proposes that if the commission wants a landscape corridor, that we approve the plan and then that we put out the maintenance of it, because it's more than just general mowing. It is caretaking flowers and those sorts of things, that we would just annually put out a bid to a landscaping company to meet whatever parameters DOT imposes upon us and the commission would like to see in that landscape corridor, and we would do that. City of Gainesville handles landscape corridors that way. City of Alachua handles landscape corridors that way, so we're not reinventing the wheel here. It's just how it works. The opportunities in Newberry are for turf. Again, FDOT provides perennial flowers, annual flowers, but I find those to be too much of a maintenance headache personally. Hedges, trees, street trees, and what they don't include though are hardscaping. So things like benches, trash cans, wayfinding signs are not handled by DOT, but we could get all of that. We could have an agreement with FDOT that if we want to provide them and secure them in the right of way, they would allow them to be there. I already mentioned that it's similar to streetscaping. DOT will put in an irrigation system. Matter of fact, if they come up with a landscaping plan and we opt out from the irrigation perspective, they're going to opt out. They're going to require it to be irrigated because, a stand of flowers located between two 25-foot wide sheets of black asphalt just isn't going to make it. So they'll put in an irrigation system, and in this maintenance agreement, we'll be responsible to replace heads that fail, to place timer clocks that get burned up, those sorts of things. They also typically wouldn't put in things like flagpoles, fountains, gateway signs like we have coming into town, things of that nature on their nickel. But we're having a nice roundabout put in on the west end of town. If the city said we'd like to spring for flagpoles, an American flag, a Florida flag, and a POW, they would permit something like that as long as it was done in accordance with their standards, but it would be 100% on the city's nickel. So that's kind of the overview. And a couple things that I thought that absolutely have to be addressed from staff level. Especially on the west side of the road, south side of the road, we have a multi-level, we have about a 3-foot wide sidewalk apron behind the curb, and then another 4 to 5 foot wide sidewalk apron, but there's steps, and we have guardrail in between them, and that makes it not very walkable. And so I think that one of the things we have to ask DOT is to maximize the walkability of that area, which I believe would mean trying to go 10 foot wide on the sidewalks and then the step straight down to the curb and then straight down to the asphalt. So that's just something that I've observed. When I'm walking down the south side of the road, out in front of the art shop, the tattoo shop, that's where we get particularly congested, and I think we need to, if we're going to have that thriving downtown that the commission has been indicating, we got to address that, and I think it can be done, but it won't be done unless we point it out to DOT and insist on it. And the biggest complaint we get about the landscaping on the corridor is that the trees that are there, people like the trees, but they just grew to the perfect height to block all visible signs. and it makes them more of a nuisance than a beauty, especially the way they're being pruned. They look like lollipops sitting up there. And so I think if we're going to have trees, we need to come up with something that'll get 15 feet up before it canopies out. And then when it canopies out, it looks like a tree and not like a lollipop. And there's some discussion of the awnings and the sunshades. Using sun cloths, you're starting to see them a lot more. I've seen a state road corridor where they were connecting the sun cloth to the building and then to a standing pole right on the right-of-way line that provided the shade because it gets so smoking hot in downtown Newberry in the middle of the summer. But I don't have strong feelings about that, but I want to push it out there for the folks that are attending. We have a meeting scheduled in early September with FDOT. We've invited some of the landscaping professionals from the Newberry area and key staff to help us. The landscape architect for City Hall is going to sit in on that. The architect for City Hall is going to sit in on that. Since they understand the commission's vision for what they want to see in downtown, or they have the best understanding, they're going to sit in and try to guide this. It's about a 4-hour workshop that we're going to have with FDOT, and then DOT is going to go away and come back with a proposed plan that we would then share with the commission to get your feedback. We'll probably at that time have the draft maintenance agreement, and Jamie or Dallas or I can tell you how much of a burden that will or won't be to the residents. So that's kind of an overview of what I wanted to get across to you tonight. If you have thoughts now, that's great. If you want to just start thinking about it and paying attention to good-looking right-of-way corridors, that's probably the best help you could give us is I don't know what they call it, Mike, but I'm in this town and I really like the way that works. I have Google Earth and I can be there in 5 minutes. Anywhere in Florida, I can be there and drop down and I can put our consultants that understand what plants you're talking about or what landscaping you're talking about. So between now, I suspect it'll be around November the 1st before we have anything back from FDOT. If you see a right-of-way corridor that you think is really nice and would look good in Newberry, that's the kind of feedback that we'd like to have, and we'll get that to the right folks and hopefully incorporate it into our design.
The Dow's in Savannah all weekend and talking about the shade that comes off their buildings. They're everywhere. It's unbelievable.
Is it nice?
It's really nice.
Savannah, Georgia.
Especially my fat butt walking around and
It's all about
and you're
shade.
walking in the shade, and even though Savannah's completely covered with live oaks, but there's areas and they got them everywhere. It's unbelievable.
The only thing that I would add to that timeline, Mike, is I think that have the workshop with FDOT and the architects, and then let's see if we can put a workshop together with Main Street and maybe the Chamber, where we present whatever they come up with, and then we take whatever after that meeting and modify. And then let's start with P&Z so that we've got, because the P&Z years ago at this point voted on or recommended, maybe it was Harb, recommended the street lights and all of those kind of things. That way we kind of keep the same process of getting feedback before we get to here. That way when we get to here, we can say, Main Street has vetted this, they've had theirs, and then we can have a wider public conversation about it.
And that's a fantastic idea, and we will do that. I failed to mention that both Main Street and the Chamber are participating in the kickoff meeting, but they'll also participate in the feedback once it comes back in.
Other thoughts on that, Commissioner Martin?
Mike, what is the initial thinking of trying to get that grade suitable for walking between what it is down to the street? Is it to take 10 feet and just grade it all the way down?
No, the
or
FDOT has some pretty strict requirements for slope.
The road up.
So what I think the suitable would be, it's possible that they could lower it on the building side. Right now, usually the outside is flush with the inside floor to floor. If code will allow it to go down for a 6-inch step just coming out of the building, we would start with that. If code doesn't permit it, and I suspect that code doesn't permit it, because when you come out of a door, you don't want to have that 6-inch drop. That's what makes all your fillings come out, makes you bite your tongue in half. So what I expect them to do is they're going to carry it over at the maximum slope, which I believe is 1%, to the back of the curb, and then either have a guardrail where you just have to go around to get down to the curb there, or have a step there with a handrail. That's what I think will happen. They'll just have, the curb typically acts as one step, We
Okay.
would have a second step to get to the right elevation
Okay.
with a handrail, and then I think that's how they'll resolve it.
Okay.
But-
And the shade is held up from posts that are out on the sidewalk? Or
Yes.
they're
Yeah.
It would
hanging off the building?
be like a thin fiberglass rod
Okay.
that goes up 12 feet and catches the eyelets on the shade cloth, and then goes back to an anchor in the building.
Okay.
Perfect time to have that conversation though, because we've been talking about the facade grants and how to get that shade and helping business with awnings and all that kind of stuff. But I think without any pictures, without a plan, it's kind of hard to have this conversation now. So I like let's do the workshop, let's get Main Street and Chamber in, then we go to the P&Z. Now we'll have some actual feedback from people saying, I hate that idea about a drop step out, or I like that idea, and then we'll have a more productive conversation. Final thoughts before we move on? Okay?
Yes.
Commissioner Maison?
The trees are important for me because I think the ones that are now are hideous. If I'm being straightforward, whenever I go to pull up next to it, I always hit my mirror, so I know I'm not the only one. So if we can get trees that, I don't know, palm trees like, or something, not necessarily, well, I'm just, it don't have to be a palm tree, but it's gotta be something that's up, man, and it's not, hindering my view.
Well, hey, we can take some cabbage palms, but I don't know how long they'll stay there. Everybody be cutting swamp cabbage, so.
Well, now look, those trees are really good when a semi runs off the road at keeping their semi from hitting the building. But they do block everything else.
They
I
block
agree.
everything,
I agree.
and they, I
I'm
mean,
s- Can you help me spell hideous? I'm still stuck on hideous.
horrendous.
I'm kidding.
Try that, horrendous.
And I know that cabbage, palms are love them or hate them. So, but I think we can come up with something that we'll
Yeah.
find. And again, the best way for me is always, you're riding down a streetscape and you're like, wow, this is nice. And then so, all right, let me pull over and take photographs and have someone identify these species for us.
All right, let's move on to the interlocal agreement for fire suppression. Chief, you gonna come up here and lead us through this?
Are we not doing public comment there?
We just a presentation for a conversation. We have a workshop that we're doing, and then we're gonna have another workshop that we're doing, and we're having another workshop that we're gonna do. So, and you guys are gonna get a special invitation. Is there something you want to say
Come
tonight?
on down here and talk.
We don't have any pictures or anything, but if you want to come down and say something about the schedule of events to have the conversation, you're welcome to. But for the record, you only have public comment when there's a motion on the floor. When staff just gives a presentation, we just listen to the
That was
presentation.
my
and move on.
mistake.
Go on.
Yeah,
Hi, my name
wasn't
is
trying to
Frances.
ignore, I was just
It's okay.
explaining parliamentary procedures.
Okay, we were invited
Yeah.
to come and give our input on different ideas for downtown. My name is Frances Bradley. I'm the Design Committee Chair for Newberry Main Street. When you're thinking of all the improvements and all of the landscaping, we really need to keep in mind the maintenance of the landscaping. We're talking about increasing the amount of landscape we have, and I don't know if anybody has looked around. What we have is not maintained, and we're better off to have none at all than to have some and have them unkept, because then it really gives a different appearance and look than what we're really after. So we currently have streetlights, irrigation, and electric outlets downtown. I don't know if we're allowed to keep that. If we have it, do they replace what we currently
We have to
have, or
have the
do they
electric,
just
'cause that's how you're the
throw-
Christmas capital of Alachua
Yeah.
County. You
Or
have to
do
have
they
the electric.
just like toss out our kind of things? Of course, like the wider one-level sidewalks that would be still handicap accessible for the businesses downtown. You said the hardscape would be the benches and the stuff like that. The awnings, we couldn't attach probably to the buildings down there because they
We've run
are
into trouble.
over 100-something
Historic
years old,
buildings.
made out of sand brick, and they wouldn't take the tension. It would not be good for our, in my opinion, for our buildings down there. And then on the awnings, I know there's been talk of uniform awnings, which sounds great, but my business is something different than your business, and you don't want a pink awning, and I don't want a green awning, and vice versa. So, I mean, I think that we could maybe find a different way to like tie the downtown together, find something that
I've
kind
never
of
heard
marries
anybody
it
say
together.
uniform. It's always been like a scheme. Not like everybody has to have the same one. We just try to figure out something that kind of blends and matches. And I don't know that that's a color scheme or just an architectural scheme, but nobody's ever said everybody has to have the same one. So I don't want anybody to hear that.
Okay, and then I think that was it, because the
Well,
rest
I
was
hope you give it
hardscape.
tonight.
Oh,
Doesn't
yeah.
prevent you from coming back to the workshop.
Oh, no, I'm
'Cause
going
then
to be
you'll-
on the workshop,
Okay.
and I'm looking forward to hearing what Downtown Strategies has for the 5-year work plan, because we can't wait until 27, 28, because the businesses that are down there, if we don't do something, won't be down
Won't be
there
here
in
anymore.
the end of 28.
And Main Street, you guys were great coming to the workshop with, and a lot of these comments that Mr. New made came out of that workshop about the trees and the heights and blocking and all that kind of stuff. So we've got a great opportunity to work together here on this. I just want to make sure we do it in a productive way where we can look at some pictures and we kind of see what everybody's talking about. Commissioner Clark?
Since she's here and bringing up the maintenance, I had it on my list here. I've had a couple calls. I have not put boots on the ground yet walking, but there was a situation that looked like the lawns were very unkept on the sidewalks, grass was growing, and the lights ain't working from the 1906 to, are the lights working at your
No, sir,
place at all?
Whenever the semi hit the building, the lights were
So I had
shut off. They've been taped off, so I'm not sure. I think
Wonder
we're
if that's
down
keeping
2
them all
or
out.
3
It is.
light posts. That might be what's.
Because I had a call today about none of the street lights working.
They're all
in our
on the same
corridor.
circuit. And as far as I understand, we are waiting on insurance to make settlements.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that was part of
Yes.
the maintenance is absolutely a great point.
Yeah, we don't take on more than we can maintain.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. We appreciate you all coming out in force tonight. And again, I hope you come to the workshop.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I didn't know you'd been invited to speak to this, otherwise we would have got you there. But I do think it's great to get you guys in the chamber in that preliminary workshop so that we have a plan moving forward. All right, Chief, come on down and talk to us about the interlocal agreement.
Forward or backwards?
Forward.
You're very short,
So
Chief.
you're going to ask
Didn't make it in there.
Right
the
there.
questions are going to be on fire tonight.
There it is. Mr. Mayor, Commission, I'm up here to speak about the fire service agreement. It's an interlocal agreement with Alachua County Fire Rescue. Basically, the way it works is the closest unit responds, and we exchange money for the services. We historically respond into their areas way more than they respond into ours. So it's the same thing as what they do with Gainesville and High Springs and the other cities in the county to make it fair. Just to give you an example, we respond into all the enclaves because we're much closer, and each year we run about 50 calls into those enclaves. So that's a significant amount of calls. So it went into effect in 2019. We're coming up to 2024. It's the end of it. It ends at midnight on September 30th. So Chief Theus and I have been in negotiations over the last few months. We came to an agreement. What they first proposed would have been a significant reduction on us. One of the things they were asking is that we would respond into their enclaves for free. And I said, that's not going to work unless you're going to give me the fire assessment for it. So we kind of took a bunch, we went back and forth. We took a lot of things off the table, put things back on the table. But some of the high points that are going to change.
Yeah, I don't know where it went.
You don't know where it went?
No.
Okay.
All right, on the spot, all from memory. Go.
All right, we got you. So we have an exchange, we've had an exchange program with them for like 20 years, and the exchange program is, in order for our fire engine to be ALS certified, Advanced Life Support, you need a paramedic on it. So the county would give us one of their paramedics, and then we would in turn give them one of our firefighter EMTs. Our firefighter EMTs would drive their ambulance, and then we would be Advanced Life Support on the engine. We have gotten to a point now to where we have recruited enough paramedics to where we can do it on our own. It is a burden on the county because paramedics there's been a big shortage of it. We started covering 2/3 of it last year, and it's been really successful. The county covers A shift, we cover B and C, but at midnight on September 30th, we're going to go full ALS.
We've hired the medical director. We're working on the COPCN, which is the authority from the county to allow us to operate as an ALS unit. And then we're going to send our application in here later this week to become fully ALS certified. So that's going to go away. The minimum staffing, there was no minimum staffing level on how many firefighters you had to have on a unit. They asked for 3 because that's what they provide. We have 4. So that's not going to be an issue.
Hang on 1 second, Chief. Commissioner Coleman?
Yeah, this is to the chief. Is EMT on the fire truck, or does that happen? I mean,
Yes, we have firefighter EMTs and firefighter paramedics.
Okay. So
And in order to be advanced life support, you have to have a paramedic. They have a completely different skill set.
Oh, okay.
Okay. EMTs can do basic life support. They can do the Heimlich maneuver. They can do chest compressions. They can do bandaging, splinting, things like that. Where your paramedics can do all the cardiac stuff and give cardiac medications. They can intubate, stick tubes down people's throats, start IVs. So there's a whole complement of stuff that a paramedic can do that an EMT is not cleared to do. They have, in the past, they've only kind of replaced our BLS equipment, but since we're going ALS and they charge for the transports, all our disposable ALS equipment will be replaced free of charge. So we don't have to purchase any of the disposable ALS equipment. When we use it, we just go into the closet that the county fills up and we put it right back on the fire truck. So that's going to be part of it. They changed some of the language in the radio system, and that was just minor changes because now it's a trunk radio system. So with technology, we've advanced. So there were some changes there. We've agreed upon sending a daily roster to the CCC, which is the Combined Communication Center that the whole county uses, and that is just for situational awareness purposes, so we know who's on the fire trucks. So we've agreed to that. The payment for service, we were the only ones that did it this way, but we would go back and look at all the calls from a year ago, calculate how many times we ran calls there, calculate how many times they came into the city, and then divide it, and then that's how we would come up with the payment for the year. And then they would make equal payments every single month. So is what they've asked us to do is we're going to do it quarterly, and it's going to be real time. So we will go back and look at the quarter that we just did, and then compare it, and then they will write us a quarterly check, and then we'll write them the check. Their checks are way bigger than ours.
Commissioner Clark.
Chief, perfect scenario here with us helping them and the old team effort here.
Mhm.
Does any of this offset the monies when they come out to these fires? Is there times when we get all this fire assessment going on and all this big industrial fires? Where do we get, how much money do we get back, or much money do they get from us when these fires occur?
So,
Or is it a wash?
no. So it doesn't matter what call it is. So on an EMS call, if let's say the Archer unit is closer into a new city limits of Newberry, and they run a call, they're going to get $865 for that
Okay,
unit.
okay.
If we have a fire out at this place, a big complex, and they send me 6 units, they get $865.
Okay. So the size of the fire determines how many people are coming?
Yes, and they only get paid, they're only allowed to charge for 1 unit.
But
So,
we send our unit to help them
Yes.
more than they send to help us.
I understand. I'm just trying to figure this out on our kind of give and take here for our fire
Yes.
assessment. We're going through a study now. and
It's not really a
What does it
wash.
really do?
to give you an example, last year, we responded to 270 calls in the county limit, outside the city limits. They responded to 70.
Okay,
So in turn, when it came back, they owed us a lot more money.
awesome. Got it.
It usually ranges between $175,000 to $200,000 to $225,000 is what we get from the county
Annually.
annually, above what we pay them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And Chief, before we leave, price per call, we've agreed that that's a fair price? 'Cause
Yes.
That was kind of the crux of how
Yes.
we are, that's always the big part of the negotiation,
Yes.
is how much we're paying each other to deploy.
Yeah, when this contract started, the charge was $723. This year, it will be $865. So it has historically gone up with the CPI. Now, they've asked for a 2-year contract. They're doing this with all the cities. The main driving thing is High Springs, because Alachua County's fixing to put in a fire station very close to their city limits, Station 21 out of Alachua, and it's going to be a huge impact on the city of High Springs call volume. High Springs runs 400 and some calls into Alachua County, and that number is going to get reduced drastically. So in order for them not to take such a big hit, they're asking for, let's do a 2-year contract so we can renegotiate with all the cities in a couple of years. And then they asked us to fix the CPI, so it's going to be $865 per call just for the 2-year contract, and then we'll go back to the table in 2 years and see how it worked and have that discussion.
I think, Chief, you did a fantastic job from memory.
Okay?
Questions from the dais about this contract? Good to see the relationship with the county is still strong when it comes to our fires. Lovely.
There's still the typical stuff in there that they provide us with facility training and include us in all those kind of things too. So it's been a really good relationship.
I'd like to see Newberry be the tip of the spear.
That's right. Commissioner Martin, you had a question? No? Scott, for interlocal, what do we need to read in as the motion? Just approve the interlocal agreement, fire suppression, and first response? Do we have anything to read in?
Appropriate officials to enter into the interlocal agreement with the fire
Motion.
services.
Okay, do I have that motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Mazon, second from Commissioner Martin. Comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Hearing none?
Is that station behind Eliano's?
Elliot, yes.
He said it's a station behind Ileana's.
Yeah, Station 21, brand new station.
Public comment on the interlocal agreement. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, before you move on, I'd just point out to the City Commission that, like all government entities, we are all looking for ways to reduce our expenses and potentially increase our revenues, and the county is no different. So that revenue that we get from the county for responding to their calls, if they build a station closer to Newberry, or we annex these properties that we're responding to right now that are in enclaves, that number's going to go down. And so, we're I hate to say fighting to maintain that revenue level at the same level that it has been for the past 5 years, but that was the bulk of Mike's negotiation, was trying to keep $175,000 a year expense from going to $100,000 a year expense. And he did a fantastic job, because when it started, we were between $50,000 and $75,000 a year, and that was just too big of a hit to pass on to our taxpayers. So just to give you guys some insight into 2 years from now, and every time we renegotiate this, the county's sole objection is to reduce the delta, and our sole objection is not necessarily to increase the delta, but try not to have it reduced so that we don't have to put a bigger share of what it costs to operate our fire department on our residents.
Well, great job, Chief, and I would just remind it, the county has its own significant fire assessment, and so I think that was a perfect response. If they want us to do it for free, well, we could do it if we get your fire assessment, right? Because that's how you're funding it, so that would be how we would fund it. Commissioner Farnsworth?
Chief, I was kind of curious as to if a call requires an ambulance and a paramedic, and the ambulance charges for transportation, does the city see any kind of revenue from that because we have a paramedic assigned to it?
No, we don't. The Alachua County owns the transport rights inside the entire county, and they do their own ambulance billing. Us as employees of the city, we do not charge for those services.
But we also don't pay for the ambulance.
But we don't pay for the ambulance, but that's on the ambulance.
And per this new agreement, right now, we drive for the ambulance, but we don't provide the paramedic service. Come October the 1st, we won't even be driving the ambulance. Every ambulance will be staffed by 2 Alachua County Fire Rescue employees. We'll have a paramedic on the engine that responds probably before the ambulance gets there. So we will provide ALS service to our customers with our firefighters, and we recoup compensation from that, not through the transport. As once they get in the bus, it's the counties, but our fire assessment and our property taxes are how we get recompensed for having a paramedic arrive first with our engine.
Okay, so I have a motion, probably second, and no public comment. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief. Great job. That will move us to item 8, which is discussion on the planned rural residential development zoning. Ms. Stacy, you want to come down, or no? That's wrong on my agenda. Are you going to introduce Ms. Stacy to us?
It's my pleasure to introduce. No, I'm kidding. My name's John Paul, and yes, originally we had planned on Stacy presenting, but I'm going to take over just because I'm more familiar with this particular section of code. So bringing to the commission tonight is the discussion on planned rural residential developments, the zoning district, and maybe some changes that are desired by the commission to this particular section of code. Tonight we're only seeking direction. And then we'll come back to the board, both the Planning and Zoning Board and the City Commission, on what those changes mean. We'll have to probably coordinate with some outside agencies just to make sure that there are no objections further down or issues and whatnot, but that is why we are here tonight. So
John Paul, let me just reorient, because we had talked about the PRRD, like a year and a half ago, but it's been a while. So this is the one that allows you outside of the urban service area to say, I've got 100 acres. I could build 20 houses on 100 acres in ag, one house per 5. I want to cluster all 20 houses on 1 acre each, and I want to leave the rest in ag, right? So we allow this outside of the urban service area, not inside of the urban service area, but that's the 20,000 level foot. You guys had some questions about this 18 months ago when we had an application, and then that application got voted down at the P&Z meeting, and we kind of dropped the ball on it. So get it back up as a conversation so we can make sure that the ordinance, before someone else moves an application forward, it's under an ordinance that you guys approve of. John Paul, go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to go through some of the history of the ordinance as it exists today in our code, some of the basics of the district, and then get into the discussion items that the mayor brought up. So this section of code was originally adopted in 2012, and it's been amended over the years for minor changes that are not necessarily to the district, but more citywide. There was the ADU changes that were added to the code in 2018. Those were incorporated into all the districts. Solar farm was another one that happened in 2019. There's clarification to accessory uses in 2019. And then administrative authority to approve certain accessory structures in 2021. So not too many changes from its original adoption. This is always an important one to familiarize yourself with before getting into kind of the different standards in the district. Is the intent of the district, what is it supposed to be doing for the citizens and for the businesses in the city. And in this particular case, it just provides an opportunity in rural areas to, as the mayor described, cluster your development. You still maintain the same density as you do in agriculture, so at no point could one of these exceed 1 unit for every 5 acres, because that extra land is always set aside. However, the code does allow you to use that set-aside land for different things, and currently the code also allows, once municipal services become available, water and sewer, and you connect to that water and sewer, you can then reposition that undeveloped land, as it's called in the code. And some of the parameters around the intent and purpose is just flexible site planning processes. Here's the breakdown of the requirements for set-aside. Based on the size of the lots, you have a different percentage of the land that you need to set aside. And again, in the highlighted here, in no case will it exceed the density that's allowed in the agricultural generally. The approval process is similar to PDs. You've been seeing a lot of PDs lately, so they'll come in for their land use and zoning, which we consider the preliminary bubble plan, and that's how they will come in. And then you have a final development plan, which are the construction plans and the final plat. The approvals for PRRDs are good for 18 months, and then they can be extended one time for 12 months. And that's for them to break ground and start construction. If they don't do that in that 18-month period, then the Land Development Regulation Administrator needs to cause it to be reverted back to agricultural zoning. The land use will stay ag, it's just the zoning that changes to PRRD. Undeveloped area, just want to read this definition because it's going to be part of the discussion. It means the part of the development which are designed and intended for principal uses of agriculture and silviculture as well as accessory and limited special exception uses listed within the code. It is not the intent that such undeveloped areas be established in perpetually or in perpetuity. When water and sewer become available, those set-aside lands can be repurposed for more development. Principal uses, so in the developed areas, again, they're not excluded from doing agriculture, but they can have smaller lot sizes for residential that might be more akin to, just a rural estate type of development. And solar energy farms are allowed in the undeveloped areas. Some that we have on the books today, Half Moon Station, approved and constructed. Dillon's Grove has 46 of 70 units approved. PRRDs can have a maximum of 75 units, so they cannot exceed that. There's been some legal issues with Dillon's Grove that are working themselves out. Double Barrel Farms was approved, but it is effectively abandoned at this point and is long overdue for reversion. And Legacy at Bass Farms was the project that the mayor had mentioned that was shut down in PZB due to title issues. And just pointing out some of the ones that we have on the books and their general location in reference to the urban service area. So the gray outline is the city limits, the red outline is the urban service area, and then the red parcels are the three that are listed there, Double Barrel Farms, Half Moon Station, and Dillon's Grove. So just looking at Double Barrel Farms first, it's off a paved road, which it must be. And this one, again, is going to be reverted, so I'm just going to go past that. Looking at Half Moon Station, this is a completed one. You see here, they actually have quite large lots and then a little bit of set aside that's being used for silviculture currently. This entire land is platted. I did want to point out that the undeveloped area is pointed out on the plat map, but I was unable to find any sort of other covenant or restriction by separate instrument that is recorded in public records for the purposes of designating it as an undeveloped area for the time being. So the current method that the city's applied is just by plat map. And also the buffer area in Half Moon Station is owned by the LLC or HOA, I assume is the equivalent of. But the set-aside land is owned by a cattle company separate from the actual development itself. So, just something to be aware of, that transfer of ownership happens.
Does the requirement for the land to stay in ag until water and sewer follow with the land? So even if a owner sells it, it has to stay in ag until that requirement is met, or is that lost in title transfer?
No, those requirements run with the land, so if they do require it, they cannot put a house on there. It's set-aside land, so only those...
Even at the 5-acre lot, because
Correct.
that house is over in the development.
Right, it's a transfer of development rights, you can consider it, so it's being gobbled up by those folks in Half Moon Station, and so this will remain in perpetuity or until water and sewer are available in silviculture. In Dillon's Grove, last one, so large tract of land, a lot of it's incomplete at this point. Phases 1A, 1B, 2A, and then 2B most recently last year was approved in platform, so we're looking for development to start out there soon. They'll finish that out. That gives them a total of 46 of the 70, so there's still more. That remainder is owned by the wife, so that will be forthcoming in the future. And now the topics for discussion. The set-aside land, it being in perpetuity conservation, was something that was discussed at some point, so we wanted to gauge the interest in making that a reality. Location in relation to this urban service area, so excluding them from the urban service area. They are, as you can tell from the map, all outside of the urban service area right now. And the last is obligatory connection to municipal water and sewer services when it becomes available to them. So right now the code does require them. And there's a few sections of the code that require connection once it's available. And so we'll need to create carve-outs if there is a desire to not have them connect once available. So, yep, again, the USA maps, just so you can see where they are currently, and whether it would be appropriate to exclude them from the USA or to include maybe just the residential portions within the USA and the set-aside outside. Do you want to start with that topic?
Well, actually, before we start with any particular topic, because I think the fundamental question that the board needs to give direction on is, you guys collectively have held a pretty hard line with the urban service area. Inside the urban service area, we promote growth. We signal to developers, this is where we want to develop and want to work with you. Outside of the urban service area, we want a green belt. We don't want to promote growth, right? There's a lot in this in terms of putting land aside and holding it in ag that warrants a conversation. But I think we have, because there's no sense in us spending an hour going through all of these considerations if you guys say, look, the urban service area is a hard line and we're not going to approve neighborhoods outside the urban service area, right? Right now, the only way that you can build outside the urban service area is the small scale residential, which is a state law. We don't have the right to negate that law. You had the right to regulate that law. And one of the regulations you said was 2-acre lot minimums. You didn't go any lower than that. You increased the buffer size. You had to have a paved road. So you put a lot of regulations on that. But because it's a state law, you don't have the power to say we're going to take that out of the books. You do have the power for this one, right? So if you just don't want to offer the PRRD, then that's, I would say, if it's off the books, then it's a short conversation, right? If it's on the books, okay, now we can go through, because I've got about 6 things in my notes that we kicked back and forth about the PRRD. And I would say, I love the PRRD. I think it's very creative. I wish we allowed it inside the urban service area, on the outer edge of the urban service area, because I think it would preserve some ag land. It would get you the bigger lots that you guys would want, all those kinds of things. Outside the urban service area, I grant that you guys have said, we don't allow development outside the urban service area. So I've always held that line when speaking on behalf of the city, that outside the urban service, green belt, inside the urban service area, right? That's where we are very, very friendly. So I guess I'd like some feedback on that, because if you don't want to offer it at all, well, then like I said, this could be a short conversation. I think it is worth offering it, especially if we're going to move it inside that outer edge of the urban service area, because then I think it does have those, gives you the chance to get the bigger lots. I know a couple of you really like that, right? You want neighborhoods that have bigger lots. But the reason why you limited the small scale residential to 2 acres was because of the septic tanks. So all of these houses are going to be on septic tanks, and having a septic tank spread out on 2 acres was more palatable than squashing them down to half-acre or 1-acre lots and having 20 septic tanks, all right, clustered that way. And that was the decision-making when it came to the small-scale residential. So anybody got any initial, Commissioner Farnsworth?
Mr. Mayor, personally, I would like to spend a little more time researching this and meet with John Paul, Mike, and you, and go over all this in more detail so I can have a complete understanding of the ramifications of our actions before we take them. I'm not against it, I'm not for it, but I would like to really know, where things are before I make a decision.
Anybody, because I think what staff is looking for is just a little bit of feedback right now, and I take the commissioner's comment that one-on-one conversations in detail. Commissioner Clark.
Mr. Mayor, so let's go back to doing some refreshing here. Lakota is what?
Small-scale rural subdivision, special exception.
And Barrington?
That was a little between us adopting small-scale rural subdivisions and.
They both went in there at the 2 acres or more.
Yeah, so Lakota is modeled after Barrington, but Barrington was approved in the a gray area before we had the opportunity to adopt, and CHW.
So what did they go in under, though? They were our code.
They were approved under
Small scale?
comp plan. No, it was just it was just agricultural.
Special exemptions,
Yeah.
special projects.
Yeah.
While we're working it out.
So that's
why
kind of
we
the
adopted.
model for those two are absolutely the class acts to me, that if you were going to build something, that's what you want to model it after.
Barrington came today, it would be the small scale.
Yes, Mr. Manager.
It would be.
We didn't have that category available for them.
And that's a state law, though, versus us dealing with the PRRD.
It's a state law with our add-on.
Right.
We put some additional conditions on to the state law.
So you can discuss this, we can table it, we can come back, I'm for it, but I'd like to be it modeled, ever what we got to do to look like that type subdivision, where they're 2 acres up to 4 or whatever they are, but both those subdivisions have turned out to be really, really nice.
And I think that's great feedback for this conversation. That gives us a starting point. Commissioner Coleman?
In my daily going over to Marion County, you got Marion Oaks over there, I bet you's got 60,000 homes in them. Or more.
All on septic tanks.
Every single one of them. I'm like, I wouldn't eat potatoes out of the ground over there. Silver Spring Shores, same way, probably about 40,000 houses, all just jammed in there. And drain field from me to Attorney Walker over there, and that's about as far as I don't know what kind of system that is, but it's a joke, man. Terrible.
So you're sounding like a just take it off the books kind of guy?
I'm a take it off the books kind of guy, but then again, I mean, I reckon if the state of Florida thinks it's safe, jamming that many, I don't want to hurt a developer if it's safe, but I just
The state of
hate it.
Florida is the one that came up with 1 house per 5. In the Barrington, which we did a special thing because he had a vision and we wanted to kind of see it play out. He brought experts in that said 2 acres was enough dispersion rate, and that's how we ended up at 2, right? But I think that kind of a thought, like, well, if we're going to have the PRD, it needs to look like that. Well, now that gives you buffers, that gives you paved roads, that gives you acreage minimums, that gives you all of those kind of things. Mr. Newman?
To Commissioner Coleman's point, Marion Oaks is the poster child for what not to do, in my opinion. And that is my area of training. But they are 1/4 acre lots. Those are 1/4 acre lots, and wells and septic tanks on however many 1/4 acre lots, I believe that creates groundwater pollution. And so staff will recommend not allowing densities. I think 2 acres is the appropriate density for septic tanks maximum. And even that, I think 1 per 5 acre that the mayor mentioned is the best net. But if in these subdivisions you say, well, we're going to cluster 5 septic tanks on 2-acre lots and then have a conservation area, you've got the net met, and I think that's appropriate. And again, y'all make the decisions, I don't. But to his point, 1/4-acre lots, they do some of that over in Trenton as well. You can find that. That, as fast as they're building them, the state legislature is sending money down to convert their septics to traditional gravity sewer, and that is millions of dollars that are going into there that really could go to communities like Archer that are truly in need. So just some unsolicited comments on this topic.
What's it called, perk? Is that what the term is? Perk or whatever? And I'm like, their whole front yard is a drain field, and I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So.
Final comments, Commissioner Martin?
I agree with what Commissioner Clark has. And I believe the community would have an appetite for those sorts of 2-acre lot minimums. The permanent conservation easement, was that referring to whether or not once it's set aside, it always stays set aside, or is there an appetite to redevelop it or reassess once there's central sewer and water there?
The
Is that
suggestion
what you're speaking
was to explore whether the commission would desire to have that undeveloped land remain undeveloped land.
Oh.
So the compromise was if you allow a neighborhood to go outside the urban service area,
Right.
what does the city get back? The city would get back some land that would stay in ag forever, or some length of time.
I'm not in favor of that kind of constraint. And as far as the obligatory connection, that's a little bit of a tough one, and I'd like to think that, I don't know, my mind goes to maybe not right away, but there's a time limit. Maybe not just because it's gotten to the very corner of the property that's, impacts 100. If there's another development on the other side of it, that sort of triggers that timeline to start. Those are kind of some of the things that I'm thinking of, but just because we get it there, triggering an immediate connection, I mean, those are not easy dollars to come up with. I wouldn't suspect for, enough people that it would keep me up at night worried about it. Okay?
Yeah, I think.
And, I'm sorry, and whether it's inside the urban service area, I think we probably need a conversation of how far inside, because that really, I think in my mind, correct me if I'm wrong, just speeds up the potential time that they would end up having to connect, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm not sure how we educate a home buyer into saying, okay, you're putting in a septic, but we've got sewer right down the road that's a mile or 2 down the road, but it could be in here in 3 years, or it could be here in 20 years. But an education, I'm not sure what that looks like, so that we don't have them, hey, I just put in this tank and now you're, running sewer by my house. So I don't know.
I think one of our limitations of the urban service area is it's a blanket, right? And I think there's there should be a downtown density, and then there should be larger lots as we get closer to the outside. And what I like about the PRD is it gets you guys what you've asked for in the larger lots. But I agree, I don't think the PRD is the right move for, 3 blocks from here, right? But just inside the urban service area, I think that's a really, I also agree about the utility hookups. I think that's, somebody just spent $20,000 putting in a septic system, and then we get it there, and then you say, well, now we need you to pay $20,000 for your proportional share. I just see everybody at City Hall upset, right? So, why would we do things that are going to put a future commission just in a bind? Anything else any feedback? Well, right now it says, right.
On those there, so like these subdivisions that have built out, Lakota is basically built out. They got larger lots than the 2 acres, so that complete land mass is gone. Barrington, on the other hand, came before this board, built the roads, they changed a few times on us, built some 2 acre, I think the max was 4 at the time, I don't know if that one stayed in there on that in that very end road. And then they got that green space, which butts 15th Avenue and 170th. They have a pretty good chunk of land in there. One of the considerations, I would say, is if it ever happened and they were in the urban services area, that we didn't hamstring them, but they couldn't take the density to 1 and 4 when they're building on 2-acre tracts. To me, the density would have to stay the same in the same subdivision. You follow me?
Yes, sir.
That's just kind of one of my thoughts on that. Don't turn the green space that they got into 1/4-acre tracts when they're building the multi-million-dollar homes or the bigger homes with the 2 acres. Somehow we need to kind of let that flow out together. Just food for thought.
One of the arguments of the people who support this are, well, if you let a PRD happen outside the urban service area, right, that sets a tone for that area. And other developments that will come in the future will build off of that. This is a nice, spacious area. I don't know that that's true or not, right? I mean, I could see that happening. I could also see lots of 2-acre neighborhoods right up against, neighborhoods with 1/4-acre lots, right? So maybe not. So I've heard model it after the small scale. I've heard if we allow it inside, we need to have more conversation. I've heard we need to have more one-on-one conversation. Model after small scale. We got one person who just says no. Well, how do you feel about moving it just inside the urban service area?
Well, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
It's in the urban services area, but when you're sitting out there, out there on 46, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, guys, we've had 3 of these come forth, so I'm not sure there's going to be a pile of developers beating down our doors to take advantage of this. But I also don't want an application to come in front of you and say, well, I know I heard all of that, but this one doesn't say that, and I'm not, so I'm going to do what this one says. I'm not going to do what you guys want it to say. So I want to make sure it starts to say what it reflects what you guys actually want. That enough to get started?
Yeah. I got a few more. I got a few more slides. If you don't mind, okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Get started, and then let's have something that we can read and come back to. All right. That moves us to. Yeah. You don't have. If you got enough, you're good. If there's something on those slides that you think is really important.
You did all this kind of
Yeah.
And highlighting. Don't forget that.
Oh, and a pretty picture.
We're not voting on anything tonight. You're just going to go back and work on a draft that you can bring back to the P&Z first and
Yes,
move
sir.
it through. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And you got enough feedback to get started on that.
Would you like that to come to the commission as an informational item before we go through the process of the text amendment with the Planning and Zoning Board?
You guys want it to come
I
back to
agree.
you for broad strokes?
Okay.
And, Mr. Mayor, we will also convert the slide deck to a PDF and transmit it to each elected official so they, in their own time can peruse it and pick out some of those details that we didn't harp on tonight for reference information.
We always have a better conversation when we have a draft in front of us, and then the public can read it ahead of time, right? So we just have to have a starting point. You got enough direction to get us a starting point, then we'll move on, all right?
John Paul,
You missed all this, Stacy. I'm sorry.
I didn't miss a thing.
John Paul, the obligatory hookup is usually by virtue of your bond covenants, so that you have to hook up within 200 feet of the wastewater treatment line, so that's where that comes from.
Gotcha.
Typically.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you so much. Move us to item 9, discussion on peer review of big box retail. So, as we know, we have a stay in zoning or zoning in progress on big box, and we're working on that, taking our time slowly. So tell us big broad strokes, and welcome to the city of Newberry.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining the
Good evening,
team.
Mayor and Commissioners. I am losing my voice a little bit. I think it's probably the allergies, but I'm here this evening to inform you of some information on big box retail, along with getting some direction. And I think this goes, yes. Yes, so it was the we were looking for direction for staff on what we need to do regarding the big box retail. I have some history here, so if it was great for me to read since I wasn't here during this time frame. So in March of 2024, we initiated the discussions, City Commission staff, to look at some regulations for some big box retail stores. And we presented staff at that time, presented potential benefits and drawbacks of the large-scale retail establishments, and emphasized the need for balanced regulations to foster that economic growth while preserving the community's character. Looks like on June 10th, the City Commission approved that ordinance 2024-15, which is a temporary hold or the zoning in progress for any applications that may or could come in to help us as a staff take a look at what some of those things are to bring to you for potential ordinance for big box. And the current one will expire December 10th, 2024, and has an automatic extension, I believe, for a few months after that, if we don't
I thought that we
get
actually
there.
had a rolling in case we weren't ready yet. It just kind of rolled on. I didn't think we had automatic. That was 6 months, then an additional. And then it keeps on going if we're not ready. We'll have
Yes.
to bring it back. Okay.
Yep, exactly. So, some background, as you're very well aware, all throughout the Gainesville area, especially down there by Butler, there's a lot of development of these large-scale retail establishments, also known as big box retailers, and in many communities, they've become contentious issues, especially in our small rural communities. So, we will most likely, coming down 26 or somewhere, be a target at some point for some of these big box retailers. And we want to be ready for when that happens so that we can still keep that character. We are looking at some different ways that we can bring forward to you. We have in this presentation actually some great pictures to show you of some things that we personally like and maybe we'll get back from you. One of the things you directed us to do was this peer study, and that's where we are. So we will, again, today, get some direction. So currently, and if you look at our current code, we have no limit on size in our large-scale developments. And we have the development standards in commercial retail developments is minimal, except in those overlay district areas. So in those overlay areas, we do have some provisions, but they are not, I don't think, what we're going to want in the future for those corridors coming in. So here is some of the code section regarding what we require in our overlay district, and this little map shows you kind of where those districts are. I don't know if you can see it very well. We should probably be able to blow it up at some point. Yeah, I know.
For those watching at home, they can't.
It's not much bigger up here either, so.
If you can't see it at home, the orange line
Yes.
is where the overlay district is. It's cut off when you get into town by the historic district overlay,
Yes.
but it extends, I guess, to the extent of the historic district
Yes.
overlay would be, or the historic district would be the overlay. So
Yep.
orange lines are where the overlay is, higher, nicer standard, right?
Yes.
Yellow line, existing ordinances.
That's correct. So just to bring big box into perspective for most folks, typical Walmart supercenter is 182,000 square feet to 250,000 square feet. It's pretty big. Usually employs roughly 300 to 400 full and part-time employees. Average hourly wage as of 2024, about $14.26. Typical Home Depot store, a little smaller, but large nonetheless, 105,000 square feet to 217,000 square feet, 200 to 300 full-time, part-time employees, and a little higher average there, $14.50 as of 2024. So here is one of those typical tables where they show you the sizes and what types of uses they have within them. So general merchandise would be a Walmart supercenter. The Lowe's home improvement centers and the Sam's Clubs are in. The Lowe's would be a specialty type use, and then the warehouse club would be a Costco or a Sam's type use. Oh. There we go. This was a really interesting perspective, I thought, to show just the magnitude going from a Main Street retailer of about 2,000 square feet, bumping it up a little bit to maybe a larger supermarket even at 13,000 square feet, and then throwing a Home Depot in there at 125,000 square feet, and then even larger, the Walmart Supercenter at 250,000 square feet. This is kind of a neat graphic just to see on top of each other what that magnitude looks like. So some of the options before we get to the pictures, so when you're looking at the pictures, you can be thinking at some of these things that staff was maybe thinking we might do, and again, maybe we do put a size restriction on that, on the actual, in the actual code. We can do maximum size limits for retail buildings, and then this can prevent excessively large stores. Place design standards on them, which is what we're going to show you a lot of pictures of, because some of those buildings that are just massive rectangles or massive squares can have a really nice look if the appropriate design standards are placed on them. And then we were also thinking about maybe bringing some community engagement in prior to some of these happening, so that the community that would be served by these stores and the surrounding community even could come in, and we would hold hearings where the applicant could be discussing what the community kind of wants from them, so that it's not just their prototype, plopping it in here and leaving. So we're hoping that that might be one of the ways we go. And then looking at some of the actual impact assessments. Maybe we have them do an economic and or environmental impact assessment for those locations. And it can help the community understand the potential consequences and make a little bit more informed decisions on some of those things depending on the impacts.
Stacey, let me ask you a question
Yes.
on that, because I think when you ask the public, okay, what kind of big box do you want to see? Sometimes it's based on what we need as a community, right? We need a full-scale lumber hardware store,
Sure.
right? Or we need, something else.
Yeah.
Is it possible to write up an ordinance that gives the commission the authority and power to say yes to an applicant just based on that need, and we don't need this over here, so we're saying no?
I'd have to defer to legal on that, because I think it's a use-based scenario, and we can't say no to Dollar Generals because they're Dollar Generals. They're a retail service provider in the community. I don't believe there is a way.
That's what always has made me lean towards the special exception option here,
Yes.
because then it gives you that flexibility to say, we've got 3 local businesses that are providing this need, and this
Yes.
one big box is going to wipe everybody out,
Yes.
right? And we've already got that service, right? We don't need this one.
Yes.
But another big box, nobody's providing that service. We need that. So it sounds logical, but it also sounds very close to picking winners and losers.
Right.
So I think we're walking a really fine line.
It is.
When you even initiate those kinds of conversations, because then it sounds like we can do something, and maybe we can't do that. Even if everybody says, we don't want this, say no to that because we just don't want it, there's no legal way to do that.
No, I don't think so,
Right.
but you're right. The special exception would be the best way to go about it, most likely. But as you know, with special exceptions, if we put the criteria in the code that you adopt, and they hit it every single way, there is no way to turn them down, regardless if we have 15 of them in the community. So I don't believe there's a way, but what we can do as a community is make the look of it more appealing to the community as a whole. And some people, I will say, some of the large businesses, they don't want to do what we ask them to do. And so they may say, well, we pass. We don't want to spend that extra $1 on masonry brick on the outside instead of the stucco. We don't want to spend that kind of money in this location on those design standards that we may place in the code that they may not have any interest whatsoever in doing.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
So we did our peer study. We looked at Alachua, the city of Alachua, and we looked at Alachua County as well. And these were some of the things that we found in their codes regarding their sizes. They have limitations between different sizes, 20,000 and 80,000. And then they consider location, the glazing, which is the lots of glass. I'm sure you've seen in a lot of modern areas of lots of glass. They look at the facade, the roof lines, the colors and aesthetics, and the entrance design is hugely important, because sometimes that sign can actually tell you more than you'd ever want to know, but also be very attractive. Alachua County, same thing. They have some size limitations based on size of the building in specific zoning districts. And again, they look at, for their design standards these are located in their activity centers, but compatibility, definable edge, parking, walkability, and stormwater facility. We also went out of the area and looked at some other places, Greenville, or as they say it up there, Grumville, Grumville County, South Carolina. They have some big box regulations, and they had, what we liked about their code was they had graphics, so it was good to, kind of those graphics put a little bit more context to the words, and they have specific design guidelines for those as well. They allow them as they're permitted via conditional use, another mechanism to help with some of those things that I think folks want to see on those buildings instead of just solid walls and a little sign on the top that tells you who they are. So here are some of the examples that we pulled out. And there's some pros and cons to each of these. This is obviously a 4-lane or 6-lane divided highway. We're not quite there yet in front, but we have, they have, as you can see, this is a mixed-use development where they've got the big box retailer in there with apartments and townhomes, and then they have some smaller ones up front. So you see the smaller buildings more close to the road with that nice landscaping buffer. We really weren't a fan of that parking lot, and we'll show you why in a minute. But with the building in the back and all that parking lot, they at least did some coverage with some of the buildings up front, making it a little less obtrusive, because those buildings do tend to be much taller, so they're kind of hovering over the road. Some of these we liked because it looked more walkable. It brought some of that scale down to human size versus being massive, and they can do that with architecture, which is pretty amazing. The building's still huge and tall and big, but it looks very nice with some of the architecture. Then, yeah, I know it's fall in this picture. Just so you know, we haven't gotten there yet here, but it's fall there.
We never do.
I know. So anyway, they have fall in this picture here, so enjoy it while you can, I guess. But this is a side-oriented building, so the side of the building is on the road, the smaller side, versus having the long pitch of the front all across the side. So this is what a side-oriented one looks like. Then we got into some of the neighborhood big boxes, or so they're called, these neighborhood grocery stores. They've got great architectural features to them, bringing them down from that really tall to the human scale. And they have, the ones I've at least seen, have amazing looking parking lots. They've actually kept up the landscaping and such. So these are roughly 36,000 to 68,000 square feet, so they're not small by any nature, but they're also not the massive big boxes. So we could utilize some of these neighborhood looks and make it for the bigger ones. Or we can have a Rural King. And so we actually found some very attractive, you can see the more human scale again on this Rural King. The awning parts on the bottom are, you're not walking into some massive garage door. You're actually walking into a more human scale. With some really neat accoutrements along the top to give it that, look, I guess. I don't know, it's a funny word, but it is a look. So these were some of the ones that we found that we just wanted to give you some ideas on. Here is what we really don't want. This is in my old stomping grounds here in Chiefland, over there in Chiefland, and it's just a black asphalt parking lot. We have a live picture of that if you actually want us to mail it to you. It's horrible. It's all black parking lot, asphalt parking lot, not a tree one, and then the building in the back with the little bits of the, I don't know what you call that board that makes the sign on the top. Not great. So this is what I feel like nobody would really want to see this, but there's no design standards, there's no rows, it's not walkable. If you're in the back, I think it's full 2 times a year, Christmas and back to school maybe, I don't know. There you go, yes. And this actually has been one of the highest producing Walmarts, I think probably because of the Springs right there. Everybody loads up their campers there and heads to the Springs. So again, we're looking for direction. After you see some of these, this is probably a lot to take in at the moment, but we would love to hear some thoughts that you have based on some of the things that we have shown.
It's not normal, but we got a lot of folks here tonight, and this one is kind of, big boxes in my brain is still, it's big conceptual, right? So what do you think about before you guys? Let's see if anybody wants to give us, kind of what they're thinking about big box, so we can break that, because we're still well away. We're not even like PRD where we've got something to read, right? Anybody that's here tonight want to talk to us about big box, their reaction to them, any of the pictures that they saw? Oh, I was wrong. Okay. All right, back to the commission then.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
I got a question.
Yeah. All right, Commissioner
So I
Mason.
saw that the Super Walmart was 250,000 square. How much is your normal Walmart size?
Normal Walmart size is probably around the Lowe's Home Depot size. Just the
Okay.
standard the standard
125?
Walmart. Yeah, not the Super Walmart's the 250, but the other one is about the size of the Lowe's Home Depot.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I got a comment.
Commissioner Coleman.
Seeing that some of these people that are in the audience, here's the deal, guys. So you bring in a Super Walmart, and I'm just throwing this out there. You're fixing to take our local, and there's more than one automotive company or what do you call that?
Automotive shop?
Repair
shop? Tire shop?
So we got maybe 2 or 3 here in town. So what, you're going to take the battery cells, Walmart will. The oil changes, Walmart will. Tires, Walmart will. What else? What else will it take?
Small clothing cells.
Napa?
Batteries.
You already said
Parts.
batteries. You can't double dip.
I already said batteries.
You said batteries.
So what I'm saying, man, what is this going to do to our local folks? And then you got hardware there. What about our Ace Hardware that's been so good to us and supports our schools, the community? RPM, they're in the automotive. I mean, dang, from volleyball to softball to football. You think Walmart's going to do that? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know what I feel. I'm not really for all this.
Rural King.
I like Rural King, but I can drive to Gainesville and do it.
Yeah, but I mean,
and
I'm
I
saying
can go to
if-
Lowe's in Alachua.
If you had a Rural King application, they wanted to be here. Because I hear everything you're saying, and my heart goes out to everything you're saying. But I don't know how you write an ordinance that says, well, we don't want Walmart, but we do want Bass Pro Shop. If Bass Pro Shop came knocking,
That's why I would like our local business owners to get up here and talk about it.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll go
finally
one more
got
time.
Russo.
There we go. Come on down.
I am no expert in this, but
hey, man, you're here, man.
I will tell you some of the tricks I've run across. When I worked for ExxonMobil for a little bit, we fought Walmart, we fought Home Depot because they were in the gas business. So a few times this is what happened. Walmart would come in, Super Walmart would come in. Home Depot did this to us. They would say, we would deed restrict them, say, look, you can't do batteries, you can't do gas, try not to do this. They would agree to all that. Smile, everything. They would keep 4 out parcels in front for themselves. They would do automotive, gas, everything. Home Depot did it. They did the same. Home Depot was in the gas business. Publix was in the gas business for a little bit. They did the picks. So they did the same thing. So there's always a way around what they do. It's hard. You're either going to do it. You can pick a $50,000, if let's say I was Walmart and you said you can't build at 50,000 square feet, I would build it at 49,999 square feet. That's it. There's always going to be some way around it. If you do a garden center, how much stuff they park outside, you got to have so many rules and regulations that is tough. So either you're in or you're out. The only way to really regulate it is make it super small where they can't come.
I agree with all. I find that they've got more lawyers and more time to sit there and go through the rule book, and And then even if you do pass all the rules, then we gotta enforce all the rules. And then you gotta send somebody out there all the time saying, well, you can't do this, and it's creates a hostile situation. So I got one person that sounds like just no. I got one person who.
All right. I've had conversations with Mike New and you, and I agree with Coleman. I don't want a Walmart. I'll be honest with you. I don't want them. I think we should go to our local businesses and ask them to expand their business. If we have to drop Home Depot's at 125, I say if we can get our Ace Hardware to get at 100,000 square foot, expand theirs, and we stick with them. That's how I feel. I don't want to take away your RPMs. I don't want to take away your the small business that we have, Sweets and Treats, because Walmart comes in, they're gonna take it all. Say goodbye. And the Chiefland Walmart, I've driven and delivered. It goes to they just drop. Honestly, if Walmart wants to leave, come out here, put that parking lot out here, and then they decide that they just don't want to be for some unknown reason, we're stuck with that parking lot. And then what are we gonna do with it? Yeah, there'll be a lot of pickleball courts, and tennis courts. But I mean, I agree with Coleman. I don't want a Walmart. I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it. I don't like them. I'm not gonna lie to you. I shop there if I absolutely have to. That's my opinion.
I didn't for legal ratification. We're not talking about Walmart necessarily.
Right, but we're using that as a.
Ordinance.
Okay.
So even
Okay, Wally World.
Even in that situation, if I wanted Ace to expand to 100,000 foot, I need a big box ordinance that would allow Ace to expand to 100,000 foot. So that's what we got to figure out is how do we craft this where we're happy with the end product without Adrian comes and saying, oh, I was about to build a 100,000 square foot Ace, but you guys said the biggest I can do is 90, and the numbers don't work unless I can be at 100, right? So again, that's kind of why I gravitate back to the special exception, because then the applicant can come forward and we can ask these kinds of questions, and now it's a back and forth, right? And it's not just here's a set parameter at 100,000, because I agree with Tom, they're gonna come in at, well, 99.999, right? And I'm not fitting that ordinance. Anybody else?
I got one more thing to add to that too. Yeah, well, now the one side of me, I heard somebody say capitalism and all that, but I know I'm going to miss if they did come here, which is inevitable. The tax base is unbelievable for what it will bring to the town. But you also got to look at what the cost is with what it's going to do to your town, what it's going to do to this part of the town. And I really think it's.
See, I think as for a special exception, where the location is now becomes part of, is it an entranceway or is it somewhere in another quadrant that not a lot has happened there? Mr. Martin, you've been waiting patiently.
Patiently.
I know where you're going, sir. I'll just sit back and watch.
You can sit back and listen. Well, I'm actually very much in favor of a Walmart. I think that anything that would bring in 400 jobs is a huge benefit for the community. I think that the convenience for the people that aren't able to drive to Gainesville or to other areas to have the ability to go to a superstore and get things that they need is a great thing. I think that the tax base would be great as far as taxes from the commercial aspect. Also, people could maybe start buying homes and building homes here in Newberry. I think that the benefits that the people that do get the jobs there, as far as insurance and stuff is concerned, I mean, I think that would help them a lot also. And if we say no to Walmart or to Rural King or to Lowe's or whatever, my family owns a lot of property out in Jonesville, and they'll be more than happy to to sell it to them to build out there, and then you're gonna lose your taxes, and people still gonna be driving out there to it. So, I don't think we should try to restrict them to a point that we run them off, and to just say, well, I don't shop at Walmart, so I don't like Walmart. So that applies to you. There are thousands and thousands upon thousands of people that do like Walmart, that do want to go there and use their services. So, I mean, that's how I feel about it. I can understand the implication on the small city, but we're not really a small city anymore. We're growing. We have Publix. We got the cake. We need to put icing on the top of it. So that's my opinion.
Do either of the two commissioners want to weigh in on this? Go ahead, Commissioner Clark.
This is all sitting up here just flapping our lips about it right now, because nobody's come with a big ticket to the city and said, we want to build a Walmart. Is it coming? Yeah, it might be coming. But until it comes, I'm going to sit back and get some more information from here, because here's the deal. All these farms that are getting sold, people don't want the houses going up, but too bad. Either buy the farm, or whoever buys the farm is going to build a house. Either buy the farm or they're going to put up the real estate on the commercial. We wanted commercial, we asked for commercial, and guess what? We're getting it. It's the same thing that's going to go on out here. Somebody's going to invest in this community, and guess what they're going to try to bring? So if we ain't ahead of it, we're already behind it.
And I think Commissioner Clark has made, I don't know how many residents have reached out to me and said, oh, I heard Walmart's a done deal. We have a zoning in progress on big boxes. We don't have an application in front of the P&Z, right? We have a conversation, but there is no done deal. We don't even have an ordinance right now that would regulate it. Commissioner Moore, you got anything to add?
Well, when staff asked me about it, probably, 8 months ago, I responded that I was initially a 5 out of 10. I think there's got to be an opportunity for us to find the happy medium to it all. And things that we're thinking about now may not apply in 2 years. We've got an election coming up in just a couple of months that could swing, significantly. But what I do appreciate is the fact that we have the opportunity to have a civil conversation, have people that don't see eye to eye on it. I think I would like to have the opportunity to provide the leadership on these sorts of issues. So whatever gives the commission the most flexibility, I think is probably key, because I don't think we get from A to B without at least having an educated, informed decision conversation. So I'm not necessarily wanting to cut the conversation off at the knees if there is an opportunity to try to have it and find some kind of a balance. I'm sure that I would be more in favor of a Walmart than a supercenter. I'd probably be more in favor of something that we don't have a specific supply of here, and the big stuff like that is not going to come here forever, because there's just not enough people, and they're going to stay on the corridors and those sorts of things. So those sort of kind of go away for me pretty quick. But either a Lowe's or a Home Depot, I think they're a little bit more of a long shot also. So I think I would be more in favor of sort of the side facing the road kind of opportunity. I think we've done a pretty good job with the overlay. Maybe now that we've had some more of these conversations, maybe we need to tighten those up a little bit further in some way, shape, or form. But I like having the conversation, and I don't think that we get from here to there without at least having it.
Okay, so I got 3 commissioners that want to keep having the conversation. So what I would say is, Ms. Stacy, come on back up. What do we need to give you? Because I've mentioned the special exception. I think we might want to take the tack that we're taking with the landscaping. Let's everybody, pay attention to super big box things that we see that we like versus what we don't like, and let's send those pictures to Stacy so we can say, if you can make it look like this, I'm in favor. If it's going to look like this, I'm against. And then let's let the experts tell us, here's how you craft the ordinance to get that and not that, right? And that way that will be, but you've heard, you got 3 commissioners that want to move forward.
Yep.
We good, we want to explore the special exception option.
Stacy, I feel like we aren't advancing the ball enough, given the time that we spent on it here. Do you think we need to have some sort of a number, a square footage that sort of maybe triggers the special exception? I don't want to just sit here and talk all the time, but I think we need to advance the conversation.
Any specific feedback that you need from these guys that would make the next time we have this, move the ball further down to,
Well,
what
I
do you
mean,
need?
I guess that we need a temperature on size. I feel like at some point we're going to have that temperature. I don't know if it's now or later. Yes.
what you're saying, we need some minimum that kind of triggers us to have this conversation. Maybe be in
This one?
this.
No, I think the average Walmart runs from
Oh.
this to this, and the average Lowe's runs.
Yep, there you go.
So what moves you from just a commercial enterprise to a big box? What's the size? Like, we've got cities around us, everything from 40 to 120, right?
Publix is a 58,000 square foot building, and Alachua defines it as 40 to 80, right?
Yes.
40 to 80.
I believe it
So
was.
they don't want 80. What's over 80? Nothing, you can't have it. No, they say it's
100.
called largest, I'm sorry, they do have.
I thought I saw 120 somewhere.
Yes, it's Alachua.
That's the Alachua County.
How large is the Walmart in Chiefland?
It's a super Walmart, so it would be definitely one of the, it would be the 182 to 250,000. I don't know exactly, but it's a super Walmart.
So I guess, do you want something public size?
size?
Do you want something public size to go into this category? Or do you
No.
want, so it's bigger than 57, right?
I don't know, the number is
60.
75,000 jumped.
75 jumped into Commissioner Martin's head. 75 a round number. And I hate locking ourselves into like a specific number.
Yeah,
So
I
is
hate
there a way
that.
to say if you
And I know you can
range,
do
they're
a
gonna pick and
range.
choose, just like
You can do a range.
Yeah.
Todd said, if it's bigger than 75, they'll go below it, but if they below 175.
So if you're between 60 and 120, yeah, or over 120, you count as a big box.
Why don't we get the community engagement?
Well, that's why I
sooner
was,
rather than later?
Yeah.
I was with the picture idea because
Yes.
otherwise I think every point is going to be like this, where we're just kind of floundering. If we can give her something to go with, then she can have,
Yes.
we can have a more effective conversation. Because right now we're just throwing stuff out. We're going to be here till midnight.
Well, and size does not dictate what it looks like.
Right.
You can have a 400,000 square foot building that might look very attractive if done well versus a 25,000 square foot building that looks horrible and you wouldn't
Yeah.
want it in your neighborhood.
Which again, in a special exception, we can say bring renderings.
Yes.
We want to see it, right?
I know, this conversation's probably happened 500,000 times across this country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Don't reinvent the wheel.
yeah, we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
So yes, the pictures, I definitely agree. Please send what you like. We can start to put together some parameters for those design guidelines from what we see or what you see out there that you like. And I think that special exception is definitely the way to go. And so we can go with that. And then depending on what you all want us to do, like you said, with the public engagement, maybe this is a workshop type of scenario, and I'd have to maybe see about getting some assistance in graphics and stuff like that for the human scale of things.
I think that is. Yeah. But if we, but even before we can open up to a public, we got to have some guidance for the
Yes.
conversation. We can't just say yay or nay, right?
Yes.
It's got to be, do you like this, do you like that?
Right, yes.
Okay.
so
Any
we
final
can start with the
thoughts?
pictures.
Yes.
Commissioner Farnsworth, and then was that a yay or nay, Commissioner Clark? No, Commissioner Farnsworth. Close us out on this one.
Sure. As far as the aesthetics, I think that would be an important thing. But as far as the size, these superstores, Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, and all, they're going to do their own surveys, and they know what the area will be, or what will be best for them and best for the area that they're in. Yeah, so I think we should take it on a case-by-case basis instead of having a size restriction.
Special exception, yeah. It's just, if there's something other than size that could trigger that a big box-like application would fall into that, maybe consider that as well. Okay. Any last thoughts on big box? She got some direction to go to. She'll come back with something that, and maybe this is a broken up conversation. We look at size, we look at aesthetics, we
A
look
few
at.
different things, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Great job. First presentation to the commission. City manager, that moves us to comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have just a few. First, just to express my appreciation to Team Newberry, which includes mayor, city commission, city attorney, city clerk, and the city manager staff. I was able to get out of town for 2 weeks, and no phone calls, well, I cheated on email a little bit, but generally, and when I get back to town, I learned that it was pretty exciting 2-week period, but we have a really good team in place, and things kept chugging right along, and so today was the busiest Monday I've ever had at work for the city of Newberry, but really appreciate everyone's efforts and allowing us to take a vacation. Mr. Mayor, we have groundbreaking ceremony for City Hall this Wednesday, the 28th. I believe it begins at 4. Does anybody know that for sure? 4 o'clock, great. I should have written that down. And then after that exciting ceremony, we're going to have our budget wrap-up workshop at 6:30. Same venue here in the commission chambers. And then the FDOT State Road 26 landscaping workshop meeting that I mentioned is going to be on September the 5th at 1 o'clock. It'll be also in this room. So those are some upcoming things. We have Labor Day holiday, Monday the 2nd. And so city offices will be closed. I am unsure about solid waste pickups. It all depends on what the county does with the transfer station. If the transfer station's closed, we don't pick up. If the transfer station's open, we do pick up. So we'll just have a public announcement through our general news distribution channels. And then finally, I think update the commission. Last week or the week prior, FDEP considered applications for construction funding, and Newberry was not allocated any funds to move forward with construction, primarily because our cost estimates for the wastewater plant exceed our ability to repay that debt service. And that was no big surprise. We knew that. Our last construction estimate was in the $80 million range. And I'll remind the commission that that project started in the $22 to $24 million range just 4 short years ago. So, but we're not pushing a panic button because for sure, we will get an affordable wastewater plant. It's just how hard we're going to have to work for it. Remind the commission that we have a $49 million grant application in that is being viewed very favorably. If we receive that grant, then the next construction funding hearing is in February, which is what we're slated to be on that. So hopefully we pick up a $49 million grant, we get approval, and then we're going to bid in March. I can tell you just from wastewater capacity, on paper we are out, but we, in terms of everyday flow, we're at 50% capacity. So we have met with DEP about how do we keep moving forward, and we have a strategy in place that probably gives us 4 years worth of 150 to 200 gallon per day homes a year. And so, 4 to 5 years of our normal pace of building, I think we're in good shape. But I also think that I should advise the commission how the walls are tightening in on us. So that's the purpose of that comment. I'm not panicking yet, and I'll let you know when we're panicking. We are asking for letters of support to go with our application to DEP. I think staff, Dallas and Jamie probably reached out to you last week. We're drafting some of those up, and we're also going to be seeking the support from our legislative affiliates. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney? Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk? Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Coleman?
Okay, this is gonna be wrong, all right, Mayor? I promised them folks over there at that SOS, is that right? That I'd ask these questions. So are you prepared to answer these questions, sir?
Shoot them at me.
All right. Considering the vote to convert NES to a charter school failed accordingly
Let
to
me pause you
the...
there for 1 second, because that
That
question
is not
started off
true.
wrong. That's
I'm
not true.
just
It passed.
reading
All
bird,
right.
whatever.
Loaded question. I don't think that's allowed
Yeah,
in the court
well,
of law.
all of them they sent me are loaded.
Yeah,
One person said.
okay. Hang on, ma'am. Hang on.
If a majority of the parents and/or teachers do not support the charter proposal, the application may not be submitted to the sponsor. Why did the commission vote to loan money to an entity that does not exist so they could submit an application anyway? For clarification, the statutes and rules work in tandem. You can't have one without the other, and you can't pick and choose which one to follow. Now, number one here, this ain't even a question. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna do it. But if you want to turn that into a question, you can.
Okay, so I would start by just saying, I'm not laughing at the question, I'm laughing because as a person who doesn't belong to either party system, I generally hear liberal Democrats criticize conservative Republicans for being election deniers, all right? And I think it's very interesting that in this situation, we had an election, the parents voted en masse, they supported it, the teachers supported it, so we need to accept, and the Department of Education has already ruled on this. They've already said that the vote passed and the vote hit the standard. So that's a decided question. Anyone who continues to say that the vote didn't pass is incorrect and is purposefully misleading people, because we have very clear communication from the Department of Education that it did pass. EFN doesn't exist, and you guys have not voted to loan anybody money. You guys have voted to pay the bills for the new school board in order to get the application moved forward, right? So I think that was, so first off, absolutely 100%. Oh, and there was something about statutes and rules work in tandem. I absolutely agree. Statutes and rules are supposed to work in tandem, but they can only do that when the rules actually align with the statute. If I discover that a rule is in conflict with a statute, that means it can't work in tandem, because only one of those statements can be true. The statute says 50%. The rule said a majority. That creates a paradox. Both of those statements cannot be true at the same time, which is exactly why the SBE has now changed the rule, recognizing that they wrote a rule that was in conflict with the statute. So now that rule is no longer in conflict.
Okay.
Next question.
Next question. What information was provided to the commission before voting to allocate funds? Was there a budget provided by EFN, a sound budget, not the underwater one that was presented during the campaign, a business proposal, ? Anything to at least outline how the money would be paid?
Yeah, this question has been answered many times. It was answered during the campaign, and as this body remembers, Dallas stood right there after reviewing the budget and reported to you guys that the budget is substantially sound. Now, I understand that on social media, we get lots of experts in lots of different fields, but we pay Dallas specifically to do that kind of report, and it would be Dallas's certifications and license that would be on the line if he stood up and was dishonest with this board. So during the campaign, Dallas stood right there, looked at the budget, analyzed the budget, reported back to you that the budget will work, and we always said that if this is what the community wanted to do, if this is what the parents and the teachers voted in favor of, which they now have, that this body, who has always supported our community, will support them. So that's how we got here.
Okay. Why is the city so much involved since this is not a municipal charter? Why is EFN not footing the bill for their initiative? Why is the commission so confident that this is an appropriate use of taxpayers' dollars?
I think I answered that question in the last one.
Yeah,
but I'll
I do too.
reiterate. I mean, that's what happens when you have a vote and the parents say, please help us do this. They came to you, it was a parent-generated concept. It was parents that came and initiated the vote. Parents voted in favor of it, and parents asked this body to help. And so that's why you guys got in it. It's not a municipal charter, that part's true, but it was very clear in the campaign, the parents were saying, city, will you assist us in this? Because we think we can keep more of your tax dollars here serving our children, and we think that our community will always prioritize our kids first, and our kids are not being prioritized. We've got 4 teachers at the high school right now that we're in the 3rd week of school, and they don't have air conditioning. And I know that, again, on social media, everybody says, well, if the teachers just knew to email somebody, and I find that very insulting to the teachers, that somehow they don't know to let folks know that there's no air conditioning and that they're just meeting in the gym and no one knows they're meeting in the gym. But we had 4 teachers that are out, right? Our copy machine is always broken. We're at over 130% capacity now in the high school this year, and the district just took units away. Our admin had to work miracles not to have to fire teachers or take away programs. So we have serious issues, and we need to work together to support our kids, and the vote's already happened. So it's really a clear-cut choice. We either come together as a community to support our children, or we work to undermine, and that ultimately just hurts our kids, right?
Right. Will the city be using additional taxpayers' money to fight any legal challenges that may arise from trying to submit a failed application? Which we already know didn't happen, but if so, how much is the city willing to spend?
I mean, this is an interesting question, and we've all heard the school board, some members of the school board make threats about where we're going to sue. It's a very interesting legal question about who has standing for them to sue. And as far as we can tell, there really isn't anyone to have standing. I think that this body has never been intimidated by bully tactics like that, and that if someone files a frivolous lawsuit against a person or an entity, we would certainly countersue for the cost of the legal to get that kicked out. So, these charter applications, there's this sign of a misconception that it's a yay or a nay when you go in front of the committee. As we all saw when our local school board approved a charter application for a charter school whose budget was dependent on a $500,000 anonymous donation on a yearly basis, and the numbers still didn't work, and all of the board members acknowledged that the budget, they still said, we approved the application, fix the budget, and come back. So when you go in front of this review committee, you have the opportunity to, here's our application. If there was something wrong with it, right, which, I think we're going to have the best application that this board has ever seen. If there was something wrong with it, it wouldn't be a no. It would be yes, go fix, section 4 in, subsection 6, right, and bring it back, and then you're approved.
Okay. Who are the teams that are working on the application? If they are city employees, is this not taking time away from their city duties?
I mean, the team was presented to you guys. You guys appointed the package for the school board, right? So that's already a public record. Our management team is overseeing the legal team that's filling out the application and those kinds of things. And I'm sure that it is taking some amount of time away from their duties, just like every community initiative does.
Right.
So
records requests.
Yeah, that costs the city an awful lot of money and staff time, and generally end up being frivolous and are just done to be that, right? So we've been really clear, and I've been very sensitive with our management staff. So it's kind of a balancing act, right? You don't want to spend more than you have to spend until you actually have the application approved. So when the application is approved, then absolutely we need to hire on more staff. We need to start filling up that staff. But you don't want to spend that money and then, because I think that the one criticism that is valid is until you get the charter, this is taxpayer money. Once you have the charter, then it's been very clear how we'll lay out that repayment plan. So this is a very mitigated risk, because again, if our school board can approve an application that has big holes missing and the budget doesn't work, we're not going to have that, right? So this charter will be approved, and then they'll have the revenue to repay, and our administrative cost to run the school much, much lower than what the school board is saying is their cost to run the school.
Who is the 501c3 that will be submitting the application? Has it been established? Who are its board members?
So again, and I think the last time I talked about how I've answered all these questions, and I have answered all these questions, and I think the last time I said, when you're having a conversation with people and they keep asking the same questions over and over and over again, then it moves to harassment. And that immediately was taken, and those words were twisted, right?
Yeah.
And what I said is every resident has the right to ask questions. Every resident has the right to ask clarifying questions after that. But when the resident clearly is no longer trying to engage in a civil conversation to really understand, they're just trying to have public records requests and tie up and waste city tax dollars, then it moves into a different category. I fully expect that exact same reaction to happen tonight, because that's generally what happens when we have these conversations. They'll take on something that we said. So we already approved, you guys already voted on the Newberry School Board. That will be the 501c3, and that was all done in the public in the sunshine.
Okay, there's only two more left here. Mayor, when the application fails, is that a leading question or what?
Very, very fair.
When the application fails, how will we recoup the money spent?
I mean, if you change that to from when to if, right? If the application failed, then it would be a valid criticism, right?
Right.
The application won't fail. I mean, it won't. Even if you go in front of the committee and they say, man, this is great, but we can't say yes because of this, right? You just go fix whatever that is. And at that point, it's at the staff level. So it would be like us saying to John Paul or Mike or Stacy, saying, hey, we really like that PRRD. On second reading, change these two things and then come back and we'll approve it, right? So then the staff can just do whatever the issue is. So it will absolutely, it's going to pass. We have the best team in the state of Florida working on it. We have our team working on it, and I think we have the best municipal team in the state of Florida. So
okay,
it's going to pass.
Last, we got to the last
one. Can I make one more second? Because if you truly believe that the application wasn't going to pass, then you could just sit back and wait for it to fail. The fact that this very small group of folks who really attack anybody in town who supports this, the fact that they're still continuing that attack so voraciously, to me, signifies that they know it's going to pass. Because if they truly thought it was going to fail, you
wouldn't hear from them.
You just wait for it to fail.
Last but not least, are we willing to spend taxpayer dollars on a plan? It's loaded, so get ready.
But the other ones were so fair.
Are we willing to spend taxpayer dollars on a plan that will be associated with Joel Searsby for the foreseeable future?
I mean, I think that's the most offensive question, actually, because, I mean, parents brought this idea forward. Parents in this community brought this idea forward. Businesses in this community supported this idea. The voters in this community voted for this idea. So that question, it doesn't insult me. It insults every single person in this community who recognizes that our kids right now are suffering.
And there were local victims.
And they're right. So I absolutely am disgusted by the actions of one person. But I don't hold the whole town responsible for the actions of one bad person. I think there's people in here, everybody in here probably has somebody in their life who has done something wrong, and you still love them, you try to forgive them. You can't be around us anymore, you can't be part of this process anymore, right? But we some people are called to try to forgive. And I'm not going to, in my mind, this will always be associated with those founding parents who said, I can't put up with this for my kids. I found this. Can the city help? Will the city help? Can we come together and do something in partnership? It should have been in partnership with the school board. Can we do something magnificent for our children? Because they need it. And that's what I'll always associate with this. And there's nothing that's happened at the beginning of this school year. There's nothing that's happened on the school board. There's nothing the school board members have said. They've been on social media talking, being anti-Asian. They've been on social media denigrating people. There's nothing that's happened that's made me think, oh, that was wrong. Maybe they're going to fix it. Maybe it's going to get better. I think it's not getting better. I think it's going to get worse. So I think everything that's happened in the past few months has validated exactly why this happened, including the incident with Mr. Searby, right? Okay. Because what did these parents immediately do? They said, you can't be associated with us anymore. You're not part of this, right? There's incidents that happen in our district that have been ongoing for a long period of time that the school board still hasn't taken that stance on. So I think that incident in particular shows the difference in leadership in Newberry from the leadership from downtown, right? It's an ongoing investigation. We're not picking a side. We understand, but you can't be associated with us. And that response was immediate.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's it, buddy.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Clark.
Well, since you brought this up, let me go ahead and say a couple things. One, we didn't pick this battle, the parents did. So if they voted in, and you sit here and smile, little lady, so I'm gonna point at you. Y'all are digging in this group that y'all got on everybody else but yourselves. No, wait a minute, I'm telling you right now, the SOS group, the group, yeah, you're digging. So tell your SOS group.
You're gonna have an opportunity.
When you bring on, and you got my child involved, you got the blue-eyed devil too, okay? Okay, well, y'all keep digging, and y'all try to make all this pot get stirred up, but you're stirring the wrong pot. So I'm gonna go ahead and be clear to all of your friends and all of you people that want to, I don't care when you get here. I'm just telling you.
You'll have your time. Let him have his time, then you'll have your time.
And then after that, this school initiative is nothing but a joke. It's a joke. And it don't do nothing but stir the pot, and they're going personal attack.
I have not attacked anyone.
Please listen. Just wait a minute. And so after that's done, what I'm saying is, if you want to get me, get all you want to get. That's all I'm going to tell you. Because when you come after me or my family, it's all good. And listen, I leave here, I walk right out on that street to anybody. I'm a man. So whoever thinks they want something, come right on out there. Okay?
All right. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Farnsworth. Commissioner Farnsworth. Hey, you have any comment tonight? It's a public comment, so it's anything on your mind right now.
All right. Well, let me lighten things up a little bit.
Yeah, wait for some trivia.
I have a trivia question, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, American history, right?
American history. I told you about this last week, and so I know you studied all weekend for it.
I did. I'm ready.
Okay. Now, any commissioner can answer? Attorney
Scott can answer?
No.
He can't?
No, he's too smart.
That's true.
Judy's too smart. Mike can answer.
Yeah.
Okay. We got a fellow from Newberry here. I guess me, you, and him are only people that graduated from Newberry, so we're probably
We're geniuses.
We are.
That's
We
right.
got this dude from Bell.
Bell.
Where are you from?
Mayo.
Oh, same thing. Same thing. A Yankee. And I don't know where.
He's a trader
from
from Santa Fe.
He's Santa Fe.
Santa Fe. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll test the schools here. But I have a $5 gift certificate to Main Street Sweets and Eats to the winner.
We're don't leave now.
So whoever gets it, if no one answers it, then I get it. Okay.
All right.
It's a two-part question.
Man, it's getting tough.
Yeah, it's tough. I know it. Well, I mean, everybody else been speaking for like 30 minutes. It's my turn.
He's building suspense here. I like it.
What is the name of a Florida governor that became president. That was his brother. Had made-
No, you were right, because you just said, what is the name? He didn't say what's the name.
What is the name of Florida president that
Florida
became?
governor who became president?
Florida governor that became president.
Well, you get me on this one now. I'm going to be interested. Florida governor who became president. You know? I don't know either. You must have.
Okay, who was it?
All right,
It's a two. You got us on the first part. You
got the
didn't
first part.
have- You're going to get ice cream.
I'll give you the check. It was Andrew Jackson.
He was the governor of Florida?
He was governor of Florida. He was
territory?
appointed governor of Florida.
And him is Louisiana. Well, he was a general in Louisiana. That's where he fought.
Yeah, yeah.
found it online.
So, second part, and you still get it if you get this right. What was his nickname?
The stick.
No.
Yeah. What was the stick? No.
Hickory.
Old Hickory. Old Hickory. I had to share this. You get $2.50 and I get $2.50. Right?
Andrew Jackson died in Tennessee. That's where he's buried.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's fun. I like that. Yeah. Now you got to up your game when you ask these questions. You need a $5. I need a $5 gift card. Commissioner Martin, you got anything?
You know, I have been very vocal about my support for the charter initiative. The Joel Serby thing was a setback, but as you said, Mr. Mayor, he was kind of excommunicated off the island and was gone very quickly. I also agree with you as far as the sentiment of people who are not in favor of it being such that it is, if it was going to fail anyway, they would just leave it alone. And I do question why there is such an animus about resisting trying to do something better for our kids. I've always felt from the beginning that our community would serve our community much better than anybody over in Gainesville ever could. I don't think Tina Certain could have found Newberry if it wasn't for this initiative. She has publicly called me the destroyer of public education, I think is what it was, but I think it's very hard for me to sit here and destroy something that they've already burned to the ground. And I think with the election of Thomas Vu, I'm actually excited about that from the aspect of the school board is going to go hard left. It's going to be worse in a year than it is right now, which is just going to fan more interest in the charter initiative. I've never been a proponent of destroying the public education, but I have always been in favor of parents having an opportunity to look at other options. And just like in business, and I've said multiple times online, if you don't take care of the customer, somebody else will. The education system has found a way to provide a path to other opportunities. And I think it is the right path for our community because in totality, I believe our community will far exceed servicing our kids than anybody else ever possibly could have. Because I know the people in this community. I've been here since, 2006, I guess, at this point. Commissioner Clark, I encourage you to just let this stuff roll off your back because it is what they are trying to get you stirred up. They're trying to get you off your game. They're trying to get you off your personality. And I'm not one to let somebody get that into me. I don't want them taking up free rent in my head. I like to do it to other people myself. So I am, again, I wasn't necessarily at the table organizing the charter school, but I'm wholeheartedly in favor of it. I love the opportunity, and I think as soon as the I wouldn't have been as supportive of these things, even with the vote as it went, even with the application as it pens, if I didn't think that it would work. We have the benefit that sometimes that the public doesn't have of having the inside conversations with, the Chuck Clemens or the Keith Perrys or the legislators. And we take that on. We take that responsibility, and we take that leadership on when we run for the office and we stand up here. It is about the representative republic that we have, in that this provides the public from not having to invest the 20 hours a week that we put into this job for 800, for the $800 a month that we get. It's a delegation. A business owner understands delegation. The public is delegating those decisions to us to make with our education of the conversations of the on and on. I'm sorry that I'm kind of rambling here, but their voice is heard at the ballot box in April every year. So, they can run somebody against us, and they can work to try to get us out, or to get somebody else in. It won't necessarily, be one way or the other, but that's the opportunity. That's the way the process kind of works. I'm kind of offended that Erin Taylor doesn't have the stones to come up here and ask the questions herself, and tie up everybody else's time, because right when you said that's the last question, I've seen her personality online. She'll have 10 more, and you answer those, she'll have another 10. It's a never-ending saga. So that's my 2 cents, and I'll get off my soapbox.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Mazon? You got a joke? You got a puzzle? You got it?
No, Joe. That was good. But a lot was said, so I want to take this time to thank you guys for coming out, because honestly, we don't get a turnout like this as often. Even, under the circumstances of what was going on here with the charter school, the public school, I don't want to keep going on that, but thank you guys for coming out. I do appreciate you guys coming out. I appreciate the businesses I see out there, all of you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. And that's all I have, man.
Thank you, sir.
No joke.
We try to offset.
He can't beat a $5 gift card to Sweets and Eats.
Now you're putting the challenge
next
out
time.
there.
Next time.
And if you're not going to come to the next commission meeting, watch it.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody being here tonight and getting us through the first couple weeks of school. I think we had one day where we struggled to get somebody to man the intersection. But other than that, it's been very, very fluid, and everybody's been very patient and all that kind of stuff. Since we have, opened up this topic, I just want to end. I do have a concern for us as a county, as us as a country, and because I have seen this strategy where if I don't like an elected official, I get my friends and we just hound on them, and we just start and we do public records requests. And we say all these mean things, and we go make pictures, and we put memes up, and we go on social media, we call names. And what disturbs me about that is every year at the beginning of school, we have conversations with teenagers about cyberbullying. We have conversations with how to treat each other. And then I have parents that through the course of the year will reach out to the school and say, hey, my kid is being bullied, and I want you to do something to stop it. And so then when we see adults out on social media behave in the same way, it concerns me, because we are the role models. But beyond that, I've seen it work downtown, right? I've seen Gainesville, run people out who you may have disagreed with, but they're honestly trying to do the job. And at the end of the day, I'm never going to agree with the 5 of you absolutely on everything. But that's not the point. It's about civil discourse. It's about having the conversation, agreeing to disagree, and then working together afterwards. And I think this community, by and large, up until recently, has been really, really good at that. And we have a small group of people that are bringing tactics from outside of Newberry and trying to do that inside of Newberry. And I just hope that that's not the direction that we're going, right? If we disagree politely, we disagree respectfully, we don't call each other names. We don't have our friends put memes up and ridicule each other, and we just try to be the adults in the room, because at the end of the day, to me, that's what the charter movement was about, is we need some adults in the room providing that role model to our kids. So that's it for me. I appreciate it. And so public comments. Come on down, and we're going to sit for 5 minutes and not interrupt.
Brandy, I just want to say, I haven't come at any of one of y'all disrespectfully. I have not put memes online. I have not harassed y'all. I ask questions. It's fair.
That's why I told you you're the only one that I respect that.
But for Clark to come at me, say I'm digging up about his daughter is highly disrespectful as a commissioner. I've not dug anything up on your daughter. You brought your daughter into this when you elected her to the school board. Or
All right,
appoint her.
We're going to listen to her.
Appoint her.
We asked her.
Yeah, you did.
Commissioner Clark, we're going
You
to.
didn't recuse yourself, so you did.
We'll correct it afterwards, but let her
There's no
talk.
correction. The vote did fail. That's why they changed the rules 4 months later. You cannot change the rules 4 months later and have that vote be a different outcome. It's un-American. It's the end of democracy. They slash out majority and put 50%. Even if you were for the charters, you should not be for that. And to be stood up to you, talking to me like that?
You're part of the system.
No, I have not ever been a rude person online.
You can correct afterwards.
I have not made a meme about anyone. I do have some information that maybe I would like.
To the mayor, please.
I do have some information that I would like to add, though, since I find it interesting, since he thinks I brought his daughter into it. Chelsea Lemon is $11,000 behind in her property taxes and has a balloon payment due in 4 days of $247,000. So I do think it's worth everybody's time to know you're loaning her also $200,000. Not slander, public information.
All right, we're going to need to pause for a second.
Public information, so it's very odd the MOU would be lending her $200,000.
A civil discourse. This is past civil discourse.
I don't have to sit down.
Now you're talking about somebody's private financial information.
Show in front of everybody. Public
Ma'am.
information.
Ma'am.
I wasn't gonna say shit.
Hang on, hang on.
Catch me outside.
Right?
We're
You
gonna
told me
have
to catch you
order.
outside?
In this room.
Yeah, that's what you told me.
We're gonna
Catch me
have order in
outside.
this room if we need to
You don't
pause
ever
and
treat a
take a break,
constituent
Miss
that way.
Brandy. We'll pause and take a break
We
if
don't
we need
ever
to.
treat a
But if we
person, a
can-
woman. You're a Marine.
Miss Brandy.
Okay, so catch me outside.
Mr. Clark, you can step into the hall if you need a break. You can step into the hall if you need a break. But
So
this
I
is
just
not
like to
civil.
find it, okay, I'll
Right?
calm down. I
Thank you.
just would like to point that out, that it's very convenient that she's suddenly getting a $200,000 loan to an entity doesn't exist. I'm just saying, that's pretty convenient. I wasn't even gonna say anything about the charter schools. I was gonna say it's freezing in here. How much are your light bills? I wanted to ask about the accessory dwelling units that this guy brought up. I wasn't gonna bring a damn thing up until he came at me. I was not gonna say a thing. Online, I've been cordial. I've been attacked online. No small group of people. You're not talking about me. But until he did that, now it's on, gloves are off, and that's the way it's going to have to be. A man, a Marine, going to call me out like that? So we can. I'll meet you right out there when it's over. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Other public comments.
Christy Ortiz. I wasn't going to say anything, but they brought up Half Moon Station. I'm a resident of Half Moon Station, so I just wanted to make a quick comment about that.
Yo.
Christy Ortiz.
Hey, you're my neighbor.
I am, and I've seen you mow the grass out there a couple times. We live on 3 acres, so we have about 3.25 acres.
Is your mic on it?
It is.
Can you get closer?
Okay, there
I'm a little shy of the microphone. I live on like 3.25 acres or so, and some of the neighbors down at the bottom have about just under 3/4. And my concern I'm not a developer, so I don't know, I don't understand that aspect of it. But coming from being a homeowner over 3 acres and I'm fortunate where both my neighbors have their well on my side. My septic is only about 80 feet from the next house, and that's on 3 acres of land, 3.25 acres of land. And so some of the neighbors towards one side, their well has collapsed. They've had bad water. I'm fortunate where we are in the back. We're in the back by the 14, 15 lot back there. So I'm just wanting to bring that as an awareness. Like, I can't even imagine having septic and well, because it's not just one, it's both. Living on 2 acres or less, and then worrying about someone's sewer and septic and drain field and, things like that. The second part I wanted to say is I'm a part of the No. My name is Christy Ortiz. I'm not very public on social media. I'm not really a person, but there's been a couple times where I do feel like I need to say something. But I feel like there has to be, for someone who doesn't know any of the individuals on the board, and I'm sorry that I'm talking to everybody just because you guys were vocal about that too. We have no idea who a lot of these people are, like personally. So all we see is what they're showing us. So when this report came out on CRB, and knowing that everybody entrusted him, I understand that was a stain on the situation. I get that. But that doesn't help us, because it's like, well, shoot, like, if we made a mistake with this one person, how many other mistakes have we missed because we didn't see it coming? And a quick example, we had, my children went to Archer, and the DC person, their sponsor, the gentleman who's with his children, I don't even know how to word it, he, I guess, got charged and for the same thing. So that was before my kids was in DC, but that put a stain on the school for me, and that put a stain on the DC patrol thing. So it just kind of, it's a trickle-down effect. So I love my children. My children do not go to Newberry, so I don't have a say-so when it comes to Newberry Elementary. My kids go to Oakview. We won by a landslide. So, but there's good people on both sides. We're not out there, we're not criticizing, we're not, we are, some of us are sharing, myself included, the few times that I've spoke, I am sharing my thoughts. I don't feel like I'm bullying, but I feel like that's our space, because we're busy. So when the 10 minutes that I get on Facebook and I see something and it's like, okay, we're gonna say something. I just wanted to put it out there, that there's good people on both sides. We're all trying to make sense of it. It's kind of crazy. I've taken a step back since my kids don't go to that school, but just wanted to throw that out there that, we still love our kids regardless of what side we're on.
Absolutely.
And I felt like that's very important to know. But also that 3 acres, I think, should be a minimum for septic and well development for that reason.
Thank you, ma'am. Other public comment? You made it all the way.
All the way. Yeah, man. Hey, totally different. I ain't gonna talk about the schools. Y'all can be good on that. We're trying to do, or we always hear big talks about affordable housing and all. And, we got the tiny homes approved. And those homes are gonna be about 450 to 600 square foot. And so we turned in for the permits this week, and I got the numbers back today, and I was worried there was going to be this. So like on our cottage homes, those homes are selling anywhere from $270,000 to $320,000. Those permits are costing us about $13,000, and that's about 3% of the cost of the house. You know what I mean, the total cost. Our bigger houses, our designers, are selling anywhere from $400,000 to $450,000, and those permits are $14,000, $15,000. That's 3 to 4%, sometimes 2.5% according to the cost of the house. Well, these tiny homes, we're projecting we're going to have 75,000 in them. There's not that big. They're going to be just as nice. The big homes are just a lot less square foot. And the permit got quoted back. And it's not the building department, but I was wanting to know if y'all could look at this. $10,350. That's 15% of the cost of the home. So it makes it tough, And now this home, this is the one-story one. And it's a 1-bedroom, 1 bath. And like I said, it's about 450 square foot. And that really knocks a hole in that. And I didn't know if maybe, if maybe y'all could take it up to look at it and see what we could do on the tiny home ordinance. You know what I mean? And and I know we're not looking for it free, but just the percentage on it compared to it's pretty high. You know what I mean? It knocks it up there pretty good ways. And that's probably going to want to be one of the biggest costs we got in the whole house is the permit. So our slab, we're projecting our slab to be about $4,000. So just want to know if y'all could maybe take that out and look at it, as maybe the staff could look at it and bring it to you guys. It's just something to think about, on that deal, on the things.
Mike, I think it's a good response. We'll look at it. And,
Yeah, like you said,
I remember having some conversation when we passed that ordinance about that very topic of what's the flow rate, in a tiny house, 1 bathroom, big house, 4, those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Now
just
you need that
something.
Ricky Cole.
Yeah, just something to think about on that thing, but just something y'all could kind of mule it around a little bit and think about it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You're hearing this too.
Other public comment.
Commissioners, appreciate your time. Billy Belts with Ultimate Boat and RV Storage. I just had 2 quick questions to ask. Commissioner Clark had asked about the fire assessment. If we stayed with the budget that we've worked with for the past 9 years, how short were we for the fire assessment? Thousands? Okay. Well, I was also going to expand on my business partner. The best case scenario for us was 700% increase. The worst case was 833%, $33,000. My question is, when was the first reading of this? Because the only thing we got was on August 5th. We got one notification that was going to come in front of y'all to be talked about. So I kind of feel like, as a business owner, trying to make improvements in this community, that we certainly weren't involved in this conversation. This is incredibly unfair, the way that they implemented, penalizing all of us for one other individual business. And I'm not quite sure how the staff came up with, I'd be curious to get the supporting documentation, how they supported such a fee, which is actually 3 times what the city of Gainesville is. And I find the city of Gainesville to be very unhospitable. So I just want to see, if we stayed with the budget we have for 9 years, why wouldn't we just increase it by inflation 2.9%, and we've covered our budget without penalizing?
By law, we've got to, we can only do any assessment. You have to have a study that affirms you're charging adequately.
What the study cost and who did it?
What's that?
What was the cost of the study and who did it?
I can't remember, the 15,000, something like that.
I think
But every 10 years or so, you got to do the study. And I want to hang on before I answer that
Is
question.
that open for other people to do those contracts for 15,000? I'd be interested in doing one.
Hang on, I want to finish, look at me for 1 second, because I want to answer the questions that you asked first, and then I'll get back to Mike. But, so I think we were all a little bit disconcerted by the timeline, because when we adopted the study, I think we were all thinking, okay, this is the preliminary adoption, which then is what triggers all the notifications to get businesses up and say, okay, this is what we're looking at, now let's start getting the feedback. And then it was kind of one step further than that, and I'll take the blame on that one. I just wasn't, normally when you use the word preliminary, that's the start of the conversation. And we kind of got close to the end of the conversation here. So I think that's a valid criticism, but we do have to do the study periodically in order to support even having a fire. And that's true for lots of different things. So what's the average cost of the study every 10 years or so? 15, 20?
Mr. Mayor, I'm winging it because I don't do those contracts. Dallas does, but I would say it's less than $10,000.
Okay, less than 10,000. You got to do it every 10 years by state law. That way you can point to it and say, this is how we came up to it, and this was the methodology. And the methodology is exactly what we're saying, hang on, we don't think that that's right. Right.
Mr. Mayor, to expand on that, the methodology is used by nearly every community in the state. There is some categorization, this industrial, the classification system may can use some tweaking, but I mean, it really comes down to, it is a factor of number of calls times the time spent on calls, and the math over the last 5 years showed that there was a rapid, disproportionate level increase in calls to industrial classified things. There's no discretionary things. It's just applying this to the right thing. So this is just a result of what has happened over the last 5 years. But I agree that it is an anomaly, and I agree that we should get into another window more quickly. But I'd be happy to sit down with anything. This is as transparent as it gets and as easy to understand as it gets. But we've got an approved methodology, and we have 2 to 3 years worth of bad data. But we all kind of knew that going in. We didn't know what the cost impact would be, but we all knew going in that, I mean, we saw the reports that there had been 29 calls to one entity in a 12, 14-month period. I mean, I didn't anticipate it would have this type of fallout,
And that's
but
when I
we
say,
knew the data
I
was
guess that's the point I'm
when I
just.
say the methodology, I don't actually mean the overall. I think in our study, there's an outlying factor that's throwing a wrench in the methodology.
I guess I was just shocked that we got to this point without being notified, and I'm shocked that we have 95% of the calls to one business, and then I'm being penalized for it.
And that's kind of why we ended up having the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, and I appreciate all your efforts. Y'all been great. I want to do more in Newberry, but I don't want to do any more in Newberry if I got to constantly be looking over my shoulder, trying to protect myself from an anomaly like this, which was clearly not justified.
Which is why I take my hats off to these guys for recognizing that and stopping that even before we got to that point, because they recognized it. They said something's not right here. Staff recognized it, said something's not right here. So you didn't, I mean, I appreciate all y'all coming out, but we would have had this exact same conversation even if you hadn't been here.
That's not the way it looked like in the agenda. It said final reading. So normally at your final reading, you've normally pretty much worked through all this.
And when we saw it, the final reading,
This
that's
isn't
what
public comment
initiated.
or input from the citizens for this. It's normally pretty much a done deal at that point, so, historically.
Right.
Okay,
Which is why we
thank
were
you.
all, because how did we get from preliminary to final?
Right.
Where was the conversation in between, right?
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Other public comment? Anybody got a Chevy Suburban for sale? I need something to, somebody wrecked my Jeep out here, so come on down.
All right. Hi, guys. Alina Parker. I did have a few comments on the big box store thing. I know y'all called everybody up here, but we know I'm kind of shy about it.
Well, you had to collect your thoughts.
Sure. I just don't like public speaking, but it's fine.
And P and Z board member, by the way, just in
Who
case.
doesn't like
Yeah.
public speaking is interesting. We have a thing about community here and a sense of community and keeping it. I really love that idea of a greenway, and I'm afraid that a big box is going to take it. We can't support local, they'll take from it. I just think the appeal and what they can build on the outskirts. What, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to Jonesville? Fine, I know it's about taxes and bringing in business, but is it really worth it? We got Kroger delivery, we got Walmart delivery. They're bringing it out this way, so I think we can manage and keep our small town without sacrificing for a big box. We have a fabulous 50s Fest coming up in September, so I wanted to start bringing everyone's attention to it. It is on Saturday the 21st, and I'll talk about it at Planning and Zoning too, which is tomorrow. But
You
mark
said
your
September
calendars.
21st?
September 21st. Fabulous 50s in downtown. Come visit, hang out, check out local vendors, and
What day did you say again?
Saturday, September 21st. That's okay. I do this all the time. Everybody got it? That's it?
Dressed
Okay.
up in the 50s, or what is this?
Please do. Please come dressed like the 50s. I would pay money.
Don't tell him that. He go all the way. All the way.
I'll contribute. I'll donate to your outfit.
I got a fedora somewhere. Yeah. Other public comments?
Can I get up there?
You want to get up there as not a commissioner? Come on down, yeah. I appreciate you taking the stance to get off the dais. Making me a little nervous, but yeah.
Rick Coleman, citizen.
What's that name again?
Ricky Coleman,
From Bell.
not from Bell, Mayo. As a citizen of Newberry, I want to apologize to the our commissioner, Mark Clark, and I also want to apologize to his kids. What just happened is not Newberry. We are not built this way. I think that that was a pure personal attack, and I honestly have been trying to play both sides with that group, trying to be, civil and to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So, I hope that this never, ever happens again. I really do. And I'm the one, if I wouldn't have brought all these questions to you, so I feel guilty in that I was part of this, and I feel bad. Because I can tell you, Clark family are just genuine, great people. They really are. And I can guarantee you this much. You're on the side of the road down there right now, him, his wife, and his kids are going to do whatever they can to help you. And that's just, I feel like I need to say that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I'll add my apology. And that example is kind of what I mean when I talk about how trying to engage in a conversation. And I take your comment, it is not everybody. It is a small group that when you say something, it kind of it ends up like that. And that's what I feel shouldn't ever happen. You know, airing somebody's private, mortgage in their family and talking about their finances, like that's not what public comment is supposed to be about. It has nothing to do with the topic at hand, and I find it reprehensible that people would behave that way. And I think that we may need to look at our public comment procedures and code and figure out how we can make sure that when people get up, they're not running people's personal information and personal families down. So, any other public comments? Come on down, ma'am.
Hey, Ms. Peggy.
Thank you very much. Y'all know who I am. Peggy Loy. And I don't think it's the place of you or you to apologize. I mean, I know it was public record. It was mean. That's what it was. It was just mean. We have too much meanness. I'm going to get upset about this.
You want a tissue? I
No.
get upset about that too.
No, there's just too much meanness. Now, Facebook is mean. There's hardly anything I want to look at anymore on there. It's, we're mean to each other. You can't watch television without somebody being mean. So it wasn't y'all's job to apologize.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your civility and any other public comment. Come on down, ma'am. Come on down. And we're all going to sit quietly and listen to your public comments without commentary.
My name is Susan Belts, and this is one of my first times coming to a city commission meeting. It was eye-opening, interesting, but I want to thank you all for your service, every one of you. And thank you for the public discourse, the proper way to do it, to be respectful of one another, to view others' opinions, because at the end of the day, we all have to get along, right? We all have to figure out a way to get through this messed up world that we're in. And I came here tonight ready to have a very strong conversation about fire assessment. And I appreciate Todd and Billy speaking out. We took a deep dive into the numbers, and we quickly realized the problems there. But I just wanted to, just with everything going on behind me, I just felt that I should come up here and say thank you to each of you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yep.
We appreciate that. Other public comments? Seeing none, we are adjourned.